Yo, yo, yo. Morning. Hi, everyone. What's happening? Oh, God. I got a new camera. Check this thing out. I'm upping my game considerably. So, first stuff I do with this thing will come out this week, but it was a little bit of a fiasco getting a hold of it, but I ended up making it work. And the coolest thing about this camera is that it's got 4-channel audio, and you can see I've got this mic plugged into it. So you can actually do like internal microphone and then 2 line-ins or 2 microphones. It's got XLR jacks right on the camera. So I thought, well, that's kind of a no-brainer, because like if I go somewhere to do a video remotely and I need a mic and amp or something, and or somewhere where it's noisy, you can do a handheld and or do a shotgun mic and do a mic on a cabinet or something. 2 mics on a cabinet and use the internal mics for capturing your voice, that kind of thing. So there's all these options. So that's just really cool. I actually ordered a mount to put the mic on top of the camera, and I'm hoping that's not going to be too heavy. Generally speaking, I've tried some of the shotgun video style mics, and I don't like them. They always sound thin to me. So I'm using this Lewitt mic, large diaphragm, kind of 414 style mic, really, to capture my voice. And it works awesome. And so I'm going to try and mount this on the top, and hopefully it'll be cool. But it is a little big. I've got some Audio Technicas I could put up there instead. That might not work. I've got some Sterling, a Sterling one I could put up there that'll definitely work, because it's a little more compact than this. But we'll see if this works. Anyways, 4K situations, and I'm going to see if I can shoot 4K. I don't know if it's worth it to shoot in 4K. Does anybody care? It's like in a YouTube video, I just don't know that it ends up mattering unless you're watching on a massive 4K TV. And it's so much more like space on your drives, and kind of just a little bit more difficult to shoot in 4K. Editing, rendering, all that stuff takes longer. But I'm going to try it this week. So I'm doing a quad cortex video this week, and I'll shoot it in 4K using this new cam, excuse me. And I also learned some stuff this week about color grading and how to make videos look better. And it's just going to be a big improvement. So I didn't know about this stuff for a long, long time. I still know very, very little, but I learned a little bit this week, and already it's like, whoa, that looks 10 times better than what I've been doing for good thing I found all this out 10 years on, right? Or even more, 12, 13 years on to doing this stuff. But anyways, I'm making a little effort. So yeah. We'll see, Leon says, I think it's not that important. I agree. The most important thing is the audio quality. That's what people come to my channel for, And I've always said, I'd like to think it's charming that it kind of is homebrew and looks like whatever. But, I think at this point, everybody's videos are looking really good. And I just had to step it up a little bit. And believe it's a dramatic improvement what I've been doing this week, just testing it and stuff. And I didn't get a lot of stuff done this week because of that, because I've been like working on video for a couple days, but it's worth it, I think. So kind of enjoying it too. A little something for your camera fund, says Tellyman. Thank you. I appreciate that, because it was an expensive camera. Not crazy, but it's the low end of Canon's professional cameras is what it is. We bill it as a pro camera, not a consumer camera. So pretty cool with the XLRs and stuff. G-String says shoot in 4K and edit in 1080p. Much more options when cutting in and stuff. That's interesting. So what you're saying is shoot 4K, but then import it like when I make a project in Final Cut Pro to make the project 1080p. Is that right? Because I could do that, but it's an interesting idea. Is that what you mean? Tell me in the comments. I'm interested. If anybody's got any insight in this stuff, I'm an idiot when it comes to this. So you guys could probably teach me a lot. Are you going to demo the new Way Huge pedal, says After Joe? I would be happy to. If they want me to. It looks really cool. Kind of seems like a microsynth sort of idea, right? Leon says a Sony A7 III. Yeah, I know, but they're $3,500. I'm not going to spend that. That's just the body. It's like, forget it. I'm not going that far. These are, you know, not quite half that, but something like that. And it's pretty kick-ass, I think. Plus, you know what it is about the A3s? Not to get, this isn't about cameras anymore. We're going to talk about guitar here in just a second here, but Dan's up there in the super chat. And I just want to say thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that in the top chat. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So I like camcorders. I like the front-facing screen. I know a lot of mirrorless, like the A7 and all that, they have that stuff these days, but there's more. There's something about the camcorder thing that is just no-brainer, bonehead, simple. This thing's got a 1-inch sensor in it and all that. I mean, the video looks beautiful. I can set it in the auto mode, and its tracking of your face as far as the focus and stuff is incredible. It's not jittery at all. And there's no, find me the mirrorless camera that has 2 XLR inputs on it and 2 mic pre's. You know, so for shooting, like if you're going to NAMM or something, if there ever is a NAMM, you know, but if you go there, for instance, you want to throw in a mic, you know, you don't got to carry around another audio interface. Yeah, the camera's a little big and bulky, but it's got the XLRs right on it. And you can literally just keep your mics plugged in, have your little bag of stuff and just boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? And you've got like high quality audio with it. You know, it's got adjustments for the levels for the pre's on this side right here. So that just really sold me, the XLR thing. Seems to be, for what I do, no brainer, you know? So thanks for the content, since Ripley up there in the super chat. Thanks. I appreciate it. I do. Okay. What pedals come closest to that Fender spring reverb, says Beer and Coffee. You know, my favorite spring that I've found in the last few years in a pedal, and there's lots of good ones, but my favorite, I think, is the True Spring from Source Audio. And I did a video on it. It's an amazing sounding spring reverb pedal. It just really, from the moment I plugged it in, had a really terrific sound. So I also like the Flint. I think it's really good. Let me think. Other spring reverbs and pedals. Well, I use the H9, which is a really obviously sophisticated pedal, but the spring algorithm in it is quite good. I think it's quite transparent and sounds really good. Something about that Source Audio, though, it just really sounds like the real deal. Like it's got all the boing and the, you know, it's just got all this character to it that really, it's excellent. And it's one of their unique to Source Audio is that they've got an editor, and you can hook up the pedal via USB to your computer and then get deep into editing, but the pedal sounds great without doing that. So if you just want to, it's got 4 knobs on it for the standard, you know, mix and dwell and whatever's on there. I can't remember, but simple controls. You may never get into the editor. You just plug it in and it'll work great. And then if you wanted to get into much deeper editing and do some interesting things, because there's actually tremolo in it too. And, you know, you can make presets. I'm trying to remember the pedal. It's tough in my old age, but I'm trying to remember exactly how many presets and all that. But anyways, it's a tremolo and spring reverb in one. And my point just being, you can get into the editing and do some deep stuff if you want, or you can just use it like it comes out of the box, and it sounded great right when I plugged it in. So really nice pedal. What else we got here? Nunaber Immerse is great as well, says William. I don't give Nunaber enough credit. I always, you know, think of other things first for some reason. There's no reason for that because their pedals are amazing. And the reverbs are. The Immerse is fantastic. When you say spring, I just don't think Immerse because I think of that. They're wet and their Immerse sounds, which are unbelievable ambient reverbs if nobody's ever heard them. But yes, the spring is good too in the Immerse. That's a terrific pedal. You're absolutely right. And I should have mentioned it, and I'm sorry. There's a nice fellow from Russia there in the super chat, and I wish I could read Russian, but I can't. But anyways, hello. And he says, do you have any real old vintage guitars? How do you think if builders today may construct the same things or close? So you're asking, do I think modern guitars are equivalent? I think they definitely can be. I have a few vintage guitars. I have a 64 Fender, a 63 335 from Gibson, and a 66 Tele. And I think when you find a good old one, they're fantastic. You know, if you can find a good one, there's just a thing to them with the, you know, wood was plentiful back then, and those original pickups sound great, whatever they were doing. And They were made by skilled craftsmen, and they're just excellent instruments that they made back then. But there are also plenty of dogs, So if you can find one that resonates, no pun intended, with you, then it's a special thing, But these days, I think, like for instance, I've got my Yaron, which is a reproduction of a '59 Les Paul, really, and that guitar is absolutely outstanding. And kind of, I feel like I don't know if it's like if I've played some great old ones. I have played some great old ones, but they're $200,000, and it's like, is there? When I got the Yaron, it kind of like quelled my lust for an old one a lot. That's what I'll say. Quelled, is that a word? I think, but I'm not 100% sure. If it's not, it should be. So anyways, I think builders these days, I think, that the Fender Custom Shop does a great job these days, really, of making Strats that are pretty damn close to old ones that are, there is a little special something though about, like, my old Strat. It just has a tone that even people in YouTube videos comment on it a lot, or my 335, which I've used a lot in videos. I actually made a video on that guitar, if you want to watch it, where you can really hear the tone. That guitar just has a sound that, like, I don't know, it's like, it's got so much character, and maybe that's the thing with vintage guitars, is they have this, when you find a good one, it sure does seem like they've got a lot of personality that just comes through. That's not like a facsimile of that sound or whatever, or like a, it's when you find a good one, it's like, that's that Strat thing. There it is. Like, that's the sound that, and then there's a lot of new guitars where it can kind of be like, yeah, that's that sort of like version of that sound. But then when you hear the old one, it's like, that is that sound. That's the only way to describe it. I don't know. There's been some discussion recently that I've had with folks about bridge blocks and whether that can be the difference, and whether the alloys and stuff that they, maybe that's the thing, but I don't know. Anyways, what's your favorite Van Halen style distortion pedal? Says sun's getting real low. Van Halen style distortion pedal. Honestly, I think the Plexitone is a really great Van Halen style distortion pedal into the right amp. I will say that even Eddie Van Halen himself, when I used the Plexitone into a Badger 30, and there's a video of me playing a gig with Steve Stevens at the Iridium, and Eddie wrote me a text and said, I watched this video and I thought, that guy does it right. And to listen to his tone, it sounds great. And then I realized it was you. And he said, you do a good me. This was a long time ago, after I just first met him many years ago. And that, of course, made my year. That text was amazing. But even he commented on the tone specifically of that pedal into the amp, and saying that he thought that the tone was really good. So there's an endorsement for you right there. There's something about that pedal. It just does the Plexitone has this fat, full distortion that reminds me a lot of Van Halen 1, sort of. So it's really, really good. Now that one pedal, anybody remember that came out from Mad Professor? I did a video for that pedal many years ago. That was pretty damn good too, and it's got the reverb built in, so that's pretty nice. The Mad Professor 1, good pedal. I'm not saying the small box can't get you in that zone either. It's a really good pedal, but I would actually probably say the BE is maybe the pedal from Dave that I would recommend for the Van Halen thing. Just because it's a little more gain, so it seems easier to get into that zone. The small box is great, but it's a little more like straight up plexi, which, if you've got the chops and it's just, you'll work a little bit harder maybe than you would with the BE, which is a bit more of that super high gain thing. God, I left the light on my phone on. Let me fix this here. Okay. I'm gonna put on my glasses because why not? Okay. Funny you think guitars from the 80s soon to be vintage. That's true. Yeah. Jason says, by this time here in Germany, I've always had a few beers on Sunday. I wish I knew what Pete was talking about half the time. I will join sober someday. Jason, do your thing in Germany. Don't just enjoy it. Just be inebriated. It's a whole different way to experience this show. And here's to you. Okay. What else we got here? J Rocket Animal is good for early EVH. The Animal's a great pedal. It's kind of on the warmer sort of plexi side, you know, but I really like that pedal. Somebody's asking, Lauren saying small box pedal into a BE. Was the guy saying that he's got a BE? I don't know. Anyways. Yeah. Somebody says, wow, I hope someday I can drop $400 on a guy that I'm a fan of. I don't think he dropped $400. It's rubles. So I think that's a different. I don't know what's the, hey Siri. Hey Siri. What is 400 rubles in US dollars?
400 Russian rubles is $5.32.
Okay. So the nice gentleman from Russia is buying me a coffee, and I do appreciate it. I do not expect anybody to send me 400 anything. But anyways. And by the way, you can ask Siri anything, and they'll give you the answer. So it's fantastic. If you want to do that instead of signing on to this show, don't do it. But, you know, I prefer you come here for... I don't think if you're like, hey, Siri, are vintage Fenders better than new ones?
Okay, I found this on the web for vintage Fenders better than new ones. Check it out.
So you still got to come here for information like that. Case in point, 777 Danny EP is up there in the super duper chat from Austria. Always cool to be here. Think about buying a looper. Any suggestions? Well, thanks. I appreciate you being here. Suggestions for a beginner. You know, the good old Boss, like the sort of standard pedal size Boss one. I don't know what the model number is, but that's great. Like whatever that one is a great way to get into it. I have for many years used the TC, the Ditto, and I think it's great too. Now there's a slew of them out there. I've done reviews on the Pigtronics as well as the Keeley, you know, and they're actually quite sophisticated. If you want simple, the TC Ditto is very simple and it's easy to understand. So there's a few options for you there. Boss has been in that game a long time, and they're easy to find, and they're, you know, they know what they're doing, and they've made it. Yeah, they know what they're doing. So I would say you can't go wrong there, but there's a lot of good options. What else have we got here? Stefan says that he's wondering because he saw a demo of a PRS S2 Custom 24 and was impressed with the single coil tap sound, really getting into Strat territory, and therefore wondered if the Thornbucker does that too. I tapped the Thornbucker neck pickup quite a bit on my guitars. I don't do the bridge. I use it in parallel instead, which isn't to say that it won't work well. I do use it in my HSS style guitars that I've got a couple of them in to tap, so it'll tap and then blend with the middle. But just by itself, the Thornbucker neck sounds great tapped. It's quite low output like that, but it works. You know, it sounds good. So sounds really good. Six String says shoot a wide shot in 4K. Back to the video thing. Then in Final Cut, you can crop into that shot and not lose any quality when exporting in from a 1080p project. It's like having multiple shots in one. See, that sounds like that's Greek to me. You can crop into that shot and not lose any quality when exporting in from a 1080p project. I don't know. I need lessons. What do I think of the Duncan 78? You know, I have one right here because it's part of our pickup shootout. So I've got a couple Duncans here. I've got a 78 sitting right there, as well as a Frankenstein, as well as a Duncan Custom, and something else from them. I can't remember which. But anyways, I got some pickups, so we'll see. I haven't tried it yet, and I want to know. Arthur Gonzalez says, Pete, I need a desktop amp for recording up there in the super chat. Thank you, sir. Yamaha THR or Spark. What's good? I think my neighbors in the apartment complex are sick of my loud amps. I really like the THR. So I wouldn't have any hesitations about recommending that. Although I've never owned one, but I've tried them. there's a video of us trying one actually in Germany, myself and Chris Buck. We made a video together and we're playing it. You can hear Chris play some beautiful licks through it and me playing my standard rock licks. It's a terrific sounding amp. So I think they're a great little tool. They look nice too, you know, they nice design and stuff. I think you can't go wrong there. Good quality. Good quality. Byron's asking about the Amplitube 5 demo I made this week. So videos I made this week. Amplitube 5. What was the other one I did? Oh yeah, I put up the high gain amps video. Let's talk about that a little bit too. My high gain amps and recorded them all. If you haven't seen it yet, please check it out on my channel. Please share with your friends. Amplitube 5 asking about latency. You know, I think it's fine. I had it set to 128, the buffer. I had like 11 instances going, I think, of Amplitube in that, you know, and I've got a pretty fast computer, but it's as long as I think latency is more about your interface in your computer. I use a Thunderbolt interface with a good computer. So software is only going to be as good as the hardware you're running it on, right? You know, so if you're limited by if you're using a super old computer and whatnot, and you're like, oh, this software sucks because there's a lot of latency. Well, it's not really the fault of, you know, it's using the processor in your computer, and they've all got a provision to set the buffer to whatever you can get it down to without getting pops and clicks and inconsistency and stuff like that. So generally speaking, with a lot of projects these days, I mean, on my computer, I'll set it to 64, and occasionally I'll get an occasional hiccup, but pretty rare. I mean, some things you can set to 32. It just depends on it does depend somewhat on the software and how efficiently it runs and all that on your, you know, how well it's written, I guess, the code. But long story short, I mean, I played some pretty tight riffs in that Amplitube video, right? And I'm not feeling any, like there's like the heavy part at the end or whatever. And if you listen to it, you know, I was able to do that without thinking about it and have any kind of, you know, I'm more used to some latency than a lot of people because I'm used to playing through plugins and monitors and interfaces and I do very little playing through a cabinet in the room. Very little. Like it's always like coming through my studio monitors and a cab mic'd in the other room. And generally I'm listening to the return coming back through Logic or something with the buffer at 64 or so. There's always going to be a couple milliseconds of latency there. So maybe I've just grown accustomed to it. I don't know. But long story short, I think it's fine. Whatever's in Amplitube. Some people say the old versions, they, you know, seemed like there was a lot of latency. I've heard that. I don't know because I haven't actually used it for a number of years. Brian says that I want to serve Eclipse when I saw you in Pittsburgh. That's cool, man. Have you done a demo here? Chris Buck is a cool dude too. He is he's the nicest guy in the world, and holy shit, can he ever play guitar, right? Have I done a demo? Yeah, I did a demo of the Eclipse. It's on my channel when it first came out. Lauren says it all matters pretty much equally: interface, CPU, and connection type as far as latency. Yeah, I think if you just kind of like, you know, if you've got a good fast Thunderbolt, I use UA interfaces. They're fast. They're rock solid. No problems with, you know, I'm not really a big fan of like the USB interfaces, although you're hearing me speak through a USB interface right now. I'm using a Samson mic. So this is USB and got its own converter built in and all that. But generally speaking, you know, a good fast Thunderbolt interface with a modern Mac and I'm good. You know, I don't have issues with latency. It's not something I ever think about. So Ben says if I can notice latency, I can't stand it. 2 milliseconds is an extra 2 feet from an amp, so that's too little to notice. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I notice it when it gets above about 10 to 15 milliseconds. Then it's pretty obvious to me. Like above 10, start to feel it a little. But I can deal with 10 or 11 or 12, you know, and then beyond that, it's just getting to be too, like when I set the buffer at 256 or whatever, and like, now it's sort of, you know, it's too much for me. 512, like not usable to me, but 128 is fine. 64 is great. No problems. Don't care. What about the new Mighty Mite pickup? Lots of demos on the tube. We have some of those here for this pickup video. I'm waiting for a guitar for the pickup video. So I've got Mighty Mite, Seymour Duncan, some Motor Cities, Pariah, and I think some Sirs will be in there as well. A vintage Dimarzio Super Distortion. So it's going to be a huge roundup of pickups we're going to try in this video. Loosely kind of based around, I think, Van Halen 1 and Van Halen 2 sounds. You know, crank plexi, try out a bunch of these humbuckers and listen to the way they sound. Braxall says, is the SLO30 that bad sounding compared to the SLO100? It's not a bad sounding, I don't think, by any means. I just didn't really enjoyed the 100. Your mileage may vary. You might think that the 30 is better or something. I don't know what it's, you know, I just, I tried them both and I just, you know, like anybody would. And I really like the 100. And it's that thing too. It's the original thing that it was designed to be. And it's, you know, I'm a sucker for that. So Paul is up in the super chat and he said, having a cab built and a custom Dumble style head, planning on a 212 90 watt Alnico Creams, great speaker, and a 100-watt version of the head for home. Those speakers should, I would think, sound really nice with that amp. Should I plan on a 65? You know, I'm not like the biggest fan of the 65. I don't know. I've tried them and I kind of like them. They sound good in my Hedgehog cab. I have a Hedgehog cab and they do sound good in there. But those Creams, Alnicos, those are really nice speakers, I think. And I think that's a good, I think your plan is good, just in my opinion. Should I plan on 50 watts or, I mean, I think the 100-watt thing is kind of the thing, the headroom with the pedals. So if you're, you know, I think that's a good way to go. Goal is a pedal platform, John Mary. Yeah, just get as close to what he does, I guess. I don't, you know, I think he uses, I'm not sure if he uses Celestians or not. He might use like EVs. I had a talk with him about speakers once. We had a back and forth text thing. And he was saying that I think he was, I don't want to misquote, but I seem to remember him saying he was trying EVs and that he really liked them. I don't know. Heavy as hell. But Fat Stacks says, remember you said it in your monitors are not your preference for live guitar playing. Aren't they super important to lock in with the band and to preserve your hearing? I mean, they weren't super important to Led Zeppelin or Van Halen or The Who or, you know, preserve your hearing. Well, yeah, I don't know. There's different thoughts on that. I mean, because here's the thing, right? You put that thing in your ear and you stick it in there and close it off and you're listening at what you think might be a good volume, but you've got this thing right in there on your eardrum hammering away and you're not getting that perception of sound that you get. Like it's very close to your ear. You're not getting the same perception of, you know, like, you know, how earbuds, a lot of kids go deaf from like having the earbuds up too loud and stuff like that. I mean, headphones in the perception of how loud it is and safe, I think is not there yet. You know what I mean? Like if you listen to, like if I turn the limiter on, I've got a set of my Sensephonics old in-ears. They've got a limiter in there that limits at 98 dB or something, I think. And it sounds really low at that when you turn on the limiter. Like it's kind of like, oh, I remember seeing a TV show a while ago, like 10, 15 years ago or something, where there was a guy with some sort of dB measuring thing where he could measure the level coming out of iPods or whatever what kids were listening to. And he was like checking what volume they normally listen to the earbuds at. And he was like, no, that's way too loud. Okay. And he'd be looking at the dB for extended listening. And then he brought the volume down and measured it. And then they put in and they're like, oh, like that sucks. Like I can barely hear it. You know what I mean? So like, that's the only thing with in-ears is generally speaking, I would say that after a number of years of using them on tours and stuff, yes, I noticed that my ears don't ring as much as when I'm playing without them at gigs, you know. So I guess I'm fairly careful to be, you know, somewhat conservative with them and not have them up too loud. But you know, aren't they super important to lock in with the band? Not if you okay. There's situations where if you're in a festival, like a big festival on a great big stage, and there's ego ramps, and you're going out down those ramps and stuff, and yes, like they are very, very helpful for staying locked with the band in those situations when you're way far away from the drums, and you know you've got the PA bleeding in with whatever monitors you might have in that situation and stuff. Well, it's to me, it's kind of there's no way around it. You know, when I've played on some stages that are very, very big, like say the Fuji stage, which was the biggest stage ever constructed in Japan for the show that we did there in 2015. You know, it was 200 meters wide, and the ramp took like, you know, a full minute to run all the way down at full tilt. So by the time you're that far out in front of the PA and you're getting the delay from the PA, as well as, you know, it's like you hit a chord on your guitar and it's like, coming out of the PA. So that could be very, very confusing and downright catastrophic. You know, if you're just trying to deal with monitors, there'd be no way to do it, I don't think. But and so in-ears are very helpful for that. In a club or a theater, though, or you know, it's like the problem that I have with them is that it puts my guitar so pinpointed right in my ear, like that it's disconcerting. It's like almost like I play more timid because I can hear my guitar so clearly in a sort of a clinical way. I don't mean clearly in a good way. I mean in like a way that's like, you know, it's too much. Like, you know, yesterday it was funny because I was in here working on the Quad Cortex video, and I was making a they call it a capture, where you capture the sound of the amp. This is Quad Cortex, like a Kemper, sort of, you know, but the new version from Neural DSP, for those that don't know and stuff, is very hyped. People are very excited about it. So anyways, making a capture of my Princeton, and I've got a ribbon mic on my little Princeton down here that's down on the floor beside my desk, you know, and a ribbon's pretty warm and stuff. And I was playing through it, and the amp, I know it's breaking up, you know, but it still sounds, I was thinking about it. It's like, God, the perception is kind of that it's relatively clean. And then like when I'm listening to I recorded a bit of the mic sound to move the mic around and get a decent tone and stuff before I did the capture. And it's like, there's so much more fizz in the sound when you mic, you know, there's so much more of that, you know, and it's just like, it was funny to me because I was thinking that a lot of people, the first time they'll use something like the Sur reactive load, many times they'll listen to it and go, this sounds way more compressed, or there's way more distortion. It's causing distortion in my amp. And it's like, no, it's not. And I was sitting here experiencing myself yesterday where the off-axis tone in the amp in the room sounds like very smooth, and it just feels good. And there's a little bit of compression going on. You know, it feels good, but it doesn't sound like there's any fizz or anything like that. As soon as you put a mic on that speaker, you can hear that clinical, like all the breakup and the fizz, is what people call that, you know. And that's why you got to move the mic around, trying to minimize and try and get it. But it's a funny thing. And anyway, my point bringing that back around to in-ears is that's what you get in the in-ears is, you know, you get that very sort of, you know, it's just so much more fun on stage in a live situation to play, I find, with the amp in the room and be able to move around. And so one big thing is I can get less of it or more of it by walking around. You know, I can hear more hi-hat when I get over closer to the drums when I want. So when you say, is it important for locking in with the band? You know, if you don't have just the right mix, you're like, it's hard for me to hear the drums, but I can't stop playing, and I can't tell the monitor person because we're in the middle of a song, and it's hard for me to do this with gestures and, you know, all this shit that takes your mind off the music. Whereas like all you want is a little more hi-hat so you can lock one riff more. You can just walk over to the hi-hat when you don't have the in-ears. It's so much more fun and about playing music to me, you know, and I just have never really liked them. And I'm at the age now where it's like, I guess I don't like these things, you know, and I use them sometimes when I have to, but I'm not really a fan. Not a fan. That's enough on that. Do you turn to the aux amp very often? What's your opinion of that device? Says Vital Nomads. I like the aux. I like it specifically for a few different cabs. I think that the greenback cabs are pretty cool in it. The V30 cabs are nice as well. The open back 410 is really nice for clean sounds, as is the 212 sort of Alnico Vox style cab. My favorite in the aux is that cab. So for like AC30 style sounds, great in that cabinet. So that's what I'll use it for. Greenback stuff, I mean, it's like I have a greenback, you know, a blackback loaded cab in the other room with Dynamount mic that I can move around and really nail in things. So I've kind of got that covered, and I find that my, you know, no slight on the aux, it's really, really good. I could just get superior results, I think, with a mic pre and moving the mic. If I had every cab in the other room with mics and a Dynamount and you know, good pre's on, you know, if I had a 212 Vox cab, if I had a 410 old Bassman cab, and I had all those things, I bet I could probably get you know, into the same. Now, the one thing you know, a better result as well with those is what I'm trying to say. One thing that's really difficult to get when you're not using the aux is a room sound, because the aux has those room mics, which are great. You know, so if I want to do a roomy guitar solo, like kind of like Brian May used to have a lot of room on some sounds, and, you know, really big roomy stereo thing or whatever for certain riffs, or the aux is a no-brainer because it's got that stuff and it's just great for that. So there's many things I like about it, and many things I'll use it for. It's like my go-to AC30 thing, my go-to roomy guitar sound thing. It's like, oh, let's use the aux if I want that right now. I can't do it in, you know, with I don't have a room that I can have room mics in. So it's a really useful device. Neil's up in the super chat, and he says, sent you an email, but hey, you're live. What are your thoughts on the Fender 68 Custom Deluxe? I play mostly Stones and blues, trying to get a harder rock tone. You know, I've got the Princeton version. I think it's a great little amp. And when you said Stones and blues, I was like, yeah, no brainer for that. Harder rock, it's like they have kind of a smooth sound. If you want to get a harder rock tone, I bet a plexi tone, that is a pedal that would actually work really good into the Deluxe. They don't have a bright cap because they did that so they'll work well with a lot of pedals. And I think, you know, a BE overdrive or I would say the BE small box would be pretty cool for more like plexi style sounds. If you want a little bit harder sound, the BE or the plexi tone, some variant, plexi ranger, you know, those would all be really good pedals into that amp. It's never going to sound quite like a closed back 212 or something, or like a, you know, it's always going to sound like a combo with, there's more mids, and it's got this more airy quality all the time that just is kind of part of the sound. But if you want to play Stones and blues too, I think if your primary thing, like 60% of the time or whatever, you're playing Stones and blues, and then you just need to get some good rock tones occasionally, yeah, just do a pedal through that amp and you're in pretty good shape. One of the ones I recommended, I would think. Sir Riot would also, actually the Riot might be a little dark because its voice just worked really well with a bright amp. Anyways, thoughts on Weber speakers, says Brisley. I like them. I've tried many good ones. The Rebel 30, I think it's called, really nice speaker. That was my favorite from them. Their greenback variants, I never quite found one that I liked just as much as a regular G12M Celestion. But the Rebel 30 is a really nice speaker. The Veteran, nice speaker for a V30 thing with a little less of that spike. Really quite good. Beer and Coffee says, do I have an opinion on the Vega trim? No, I've seen it, but I've never tried it. Thoughts on the Axe in-out interfaces that IK Multimedia offers? I'm sure they're really good, probably just a basic. You know, I know they make a simple like 1/4 inch one. You can just plug your guitar into your probably USB. Probably decent, you know. Seems like a simple, you know. I have a really old one somewhere around here that is one of the really old amp. I can't remember, Amplitube amp plugged or something it was called. I can't remember. But yeah. What can you say about the Sir MIDI switch? Great. There it is. I have it right here. I have to make a video of it for them. I've been promising for a little bit. Just a simple video on how it works with the PT15, for instance, you know, to add MIDI. So I should do that. Maybe something I can knock out today in an hour or something. Yeah, no Jim Wagner Pickups, formerly WCR, in the pickup shootout. That's Arthur. You know, I haven't talked to Jim for years. I like his pickups. I think he makes good pickups, but it's been 10 years, I think, since I've spoken with him. So I had a set of his pickups in my my old R9, and I just lost track of him. So, you know, I think we've got enough pickups. I mean, it's going to be already like, it's going to be over 10. It's probably going to be more like, 10 to 15 in this, and that's enough for a YouTube video. So, yeah. Internet Money says Yogi's channel gets very few views. Plug his channel. My old friend Yogi Lonich. Find him. He's a good man. He does some nice lessons and things on his channel, and he's my old guitar buddy. I love that guy. Okay. Do you always play without headphones, or sometimes you do? If so, do you mind it? I rarely play with headphones, but sometimes I do in here. Like if I'm tracking a live amp in the room, for instance, I'll throw a set of headphones on, or acoustic guitar. I've got a lot of headphones around here, some nice ones. I've got some Beyerdynamic ones that I really like. I've got these studio monitor ones, or whatever these are called, that I always forget the name of. SB Studio, I can never remember. It's written in the smallest print on these, but I really like these headphones. They're the ones I mainly use. What are they called? Here, this is what I have to do to read small print. SACB1 SM. SACB1-SM. Studio monitor, I think that means. What I just did is I pulled my contact to the side because I'm so nearsighted that okay, so I'm nearsighted and farsighted all at the same time because I'm getting old now. So, I do one of those with my phone or whatever. What does it say? So I got to do that when I've got correction in even. But if I pull my contact to the side, because I'm so nearsighted and I can't see beyond this far in front of my face, my vision is super sharp this far away from my eye when I don't have any correction. So I'll pull my contact over, get super close to fine print, and I can read it perfectly. Life is funny. Somebody's in Canada up there in the super duper chat. It's John, and he says boost drive suggestions for a BE100 Deluxe. I play some heavy and classic stuff, but keep the gain fairly low and use the volume knob. Dave's Golden Pearl would be great. That's a nice pedal. Dave's Golden Pearl. It's kind of a takeoff on it. I was talking to him this week about it. I did a video of that pedal, if you want to see it. It features my alter ego nerd character that I want to bring back, actually, and have as a recurring thing. Just watch the video and you'll see what I mean. But yeah, the Golden Pearl, great boost for that, I would think. It's an overdrive that's quite tunable. What else could you use? I would say, a good tube screamer is never a bad thing. That one I did a video for a while ago called the Apex 808, great pedal. That'll sound fantastic for a boost. Keep it tight into there. An SD1 is always good, but you're talking about an amp that's already got a lot of gain, so I don't know how much you want to boost it anyway. The Precision Drive from Horizon, nice pedal for boosting and staying tight for hard rock. It's got the low end control on it that lets you kind of roll out lows. It's nice. Whatever that means. Okay, I'm going to go all the way to the bottom of the chat. And if I've missed anybody's super chat, I'm sorry. Did I? I just saw one shoot by here. I don't think I did. So I think we're good. Okay. Hit that like, folks, says Ben. What's up, Ben, up there in Canada? Good to see you. What is the best recommended practice amp? The PT15, of course. It's not technically a practice amp, but it'll work great for that. We talked a little earlier about the Yamaha THR. Is that what they're called? THR? I like those. Winthorpe says, no love for Egnators. I was just emailing with Bruce. I can't tell you. He has, I almost said it, and that would be wrong of me. He's got something coming out that he asked me to make a video for, and I'm going to do it. So I love Bruce, and I have lots of love for Egnator. And as a matter of fact, I used a M4 preamp quite a bit I used to have it in my rig, so I have plenty of love for Egnator. Back around 2009 till about 2011, I had that in my 12 space rack. And when I ran a wet, dry, wet rig, when I ran way too big of a rig, and I had the PT100 as well as the Egnator preamp, and I could switch in any of the 4 preamps of the M4 as well as the front end of the PT100. So I could use 7 different preamp channels, basically. It was way too many volumes to set to get that all balanced, all the masters and everything, but I sure could get a lot of sounds. It was pretty cool. I still have my M4 in the other room. I've often thought about like bringing it in here, but you know, I have the because I'm making some videos for the preamp modules. You can see up there all the modules on the shelf for the Synergy. That's what they based it on. I mean, they based their whole system on the Egnator kind of design, and so anyways, I sort of have that in here. Okay. Any thoughts on G&L legacy models? I know very little about G&L guitars. Anybody out there have them? That's Vincent. I always thought they were pretty nice. Like I'd stop by the NAMM booth and pick them up and go, these are nice guitars, but I just never owned one or anything. Here's a good question. Broken Strings. Have you had a chance to try out Celestion's new dynamic IRs and or compare them to playing through a reactive load and old-fashioned IRs? So they've just sent me a new version of their plugin, and I have to install it. Thank you for reminding me. That is just another thing that I have to do today. I have been collaborating with them a little bit on things, and I think it's a great plugin. That the options that it gives you with the room sounds and things, very cool. Do I have a perspective on the dynamic IRs? Not just yet, but I'm going to make a video for that plugin. So hold on, and within another month or so, there will be a video of me playing that plugin. And you know, I think it's an excellent option for IRs in the computer. It's terrific. You know, I like the mixer vibe of it. Talking about Celestion's got their own sort of you know, proprietary IR thing now that they called is it DSR, dynamic IR thing, dynamic something or other, dynamic response something or other. But it's their own versions of their IRs they've had out for a while now, that sort of simulate the sound of a speaker driving at different, you know, when you're playing harder or playing softer, how the speaker responds different, which isn't something you can capture actually in a traditional impulse response, and it has an effect on the sound. Anyway, coming soon, video for that. VBoss is up there in the super chat. Thank you, man. He says, what are your thoughts on programmable EQ pedals such as the Source Audio? I like it. I did a video for it. I also did a video for the Boss. Great. Wondering if various EQ settings plus 2 or 3 pedals can offer a variety of tones. Absolutely. As opposed to a huge number of OD and boost distortion pedals. Absolutely. There's no question that an EQ, you know, with a couple of, if you've got a good overdrive and a good fuzz, you know, and then you know, are good, you know, like if you got a fuzz face and a big muff in your rig, and you've got, you know, a tube screamer style overdrive and I don't know, maybe some kind of harder clipped distortion, and then you use the EQ to tune all those, it's limitless, you know. The neat thing about both those is they both have, I'm talking about the Boss and the Source Audio, they both have 2 EQs in them, and the ability to patch. I think the Source Audio lets you do this, but I think they both got the ability to patch in pre and post. So you could have one in front of the amp and one in the loop of an amp, let's say, which is a different thing. An EQ in the effect loop of an amp lets you really dial in the tone to sound like different. Like I think it just lets you really get, you know, if you want to get your JCM 800 more into metal territory or something, you know, you can really get in there and carve, like with say like a 31 band graphic or something in the loop of an amp. You can really like fine tune the tone, or a 10 band even. I like graphic EQs in loops. I think they're for certain things, you know, not for traditional plexi stuff or whatever, but for metal, it can be really neat to carve up a distortion sound. And so that's very similar to having an EQ, say, after a distortion pedal or a fuzz, which incidentally, somebody like Gilmore does for every single pedal in his rig. He uses the Source EQ now. source audio, but he used to use just Boss graphic EQs, the pedal. And so every fuzz, every big muff would have a corresponding, because he'd use a few with different settings, I guess. And every pedal would have a corresponding EQ to go with it, so he could fine tune the distortion sound of that pedal. Great idea, you know. Yeah. Stefan says, just open the Sunday evening beer. Cheers from Cologne. Thank you, good sir. Appreciate that. Appreciate it. I do. You've got that beautiful cathedral there, don't you? By the river. I remember I had a t-shirt with the twin, spires or whatever they're called. What the hell? Seriously? Did I just spill on my new chair? Damn it. Dribble cup. 1 second. That sucks. Give me just a second. I gotta get some water. I don't want to stay in my new chair. Be right back. Man, oh man. Travel mugs. Is it really that hard to design one that isn't a friggin' dribble cup? Christ on a card. All right. Let's just open this. Piece of crap. Note to self, get a better travel mug. Okay. What's that telly looking guitar back there? Where? Oh, it's a telly. That telly looking guitar is a telly. It's a 66, my old telly. Got in Japan. What do you do when you're stuck in a rut with your playing? God, man, there's so many lessons out there now, online, that for me, it's like I'll just watch a Tom Bukovac video and learn a lick or something, or go to Tim Pierce's channel, maybe sign up for Tim Pierce's studio guitar masterclass, or, we go to the Paul Gilbert Academy of, he's got his own teaching thing, online thing that he does. All these options, depending on the style you're into. And, there's so many options. For a quick thing, I like the Jam Track Central. God, burping a lot. Sorry. All kinds of problems today. Why do you people put up with me? The Jam Track Central lessons are great. They've got a lot of on their site, jamtrackcentral.com. They've got a lot of lessons from folks like Mateus Sasato and people like that are $5, or some of them are more, and they're quick, concepts and things and you can download them. And there's so many great licks and things you can just, garner from those. Well, Tim Pierce offered a great piece of advice once about learning things off of these online things, because it can seem overwhelming. I think all these great players and so many videos. Just get one little thing out of each. If you watch a thing with Tom Bukovac or something, one of his videos that he does, the homeschooling videos, or something with Chris Buck or Mateus or something, just see if you can pick up one little lick or concept out of each video, and then you've learned something that day, and maybe inspired you to play something a little bit different. It doesn't have to be this overwhelming thing, even if you just garner one little thing from it, So that's a couple tips. Also, if you're stuck in a rut, put on a groove and jam, but use a drum groove or something, using a if you've got a DAW with some sort of drum machine plug-in, put in something in 6/8 or something with a different feel than you're used to playing, so that you're not always playing in the same tempo or the same groove. Some different things you can do, and then jam along. Are 3-inch monitor speakers loud enough or okay for guitar, or do I go with 5-inch? Says my knees hurt. 3-inch sounds really small, but they might sound great for low volume playing. Something like little 5s would probably be as small as I would want to go, but I'm mixing and stuff like that. So it's like, I've never tried a monitor that small. There might be some good ones out there that are really tiny. It's cool to reference on, to have, if you're mixing, even to have little speakers. That's something that every mixer does, generally speaking. It's like Bob Clearmountain has always got these old Apple speakers that they made in the 80s and the 90s that are like computer speakers, but he loves the sound for, he uses NS10s and he uses some bigger speakers. I can't remember what, and he uses those little Apple monitors, which he bought up like tons of them because they don't make them anymore. And he just found as many pairs as he could because he loved the sound to compare mixes on, for, so that what it's going to sound like coming out of a TV or out of a computer or out of, that kind of thing. In vintage Marshall style amps, says HGO, do you prefer high or low filtering? I prefer, generally speaking, pretty low. And I know there's ghosting and that it's not quite as tight, but the compression and the sound is what I like, Now, in that Germino, it came with relatively stiff filtering, but I like the sound, so I didn't change it. There's a few things about it that just looking at it, I would have been like opening it up and going, oh, okay, it's got this and this. Like, it's sort of like, oh, I bet I'm going to want to change that. And then you try it and you're like, it sounds awesome. Like, why mess with it? So I haven't messed with any of that stuff, the filtering in it and stuff. But generally speaking, in an old plexi circuit or something, I tend to prefer the pretty low filtering. I kind of like ghosting. I like that weird stuff that it's part of the sound. Like, to me, the underlying kind of weird notes, ghost notes, are that, for those that don't know, are like the filtering on an amp can take out a lot of this stuff that some people find undesirable, and it also has the effect of kind of tightening up the sound of the amp, making it a bit more stiff, which can be, for some people, if you're playing harder rock or something, I guess can be a desirable thing. It's a little looser going on the lower, the early, JTM 45 or early super lead amps with the lower filtering, a little softer thing, a little more. But to me, it's part of that sound. And the ghost notes are the extra kind of little note. You play one note that sort of sounds like there's two, or there's another one that might sort of sound a little out of tune that comes in below. You really hear it up, around the 12th fret, 12th, 14th, 15th frets, on like the G string. And it can be undesirable. So some folks, I think it's part of the sound. I think it adds to the fatness of those amps when you're playing chords, even, and dyads and things, because all that ghosting is in there, and it's part of the character of that sound, and I love it. David is up in the top chat, super chat, and he says, thanks for this. As always, following on my last question, please share a tip. If not for a specific gig, how do you like to make practice productive? Dude, if you figure it out, let me know, because I'm all over the map. I'm not much of a practicer these days. I'm always making tracks and writing songs and coming up with parts and things, but learning new things is not something I've I sort of am, I use the guitar like a writing tool mostly. It's the truth. I like to practice new things, but like I just gave a few tips, and that is really coming from where I'm coming from. Sometimes I'll watch videos, or like I say, I've got like Laurie's and Mateus's, course from Jam Track Central. I really like them because I feel like they're concise and relatively simple ideas that I can just watch for half an hour, and I'll pick up a couple new little moves, and go, oh, that's cool. Beyond that, I mean, I would love to at some point sit down and study with somebody. Like, I would love to learn piano. I would love to learn, take piano lessons from some nice little old lady, and get the basics, and learn to read properly and on piano, and that would be amazing. Or classical guitar or something. Tackle something that I with an instructor, kind of old school, would be something I would like to do. I might, these are things, New Year's resolutions and all that. It's still fucking dribbling. Maybe it's the way wow, this cup sucks. I hate it. It's got like a little ridge on it. Frustration. James Halbert says, what's the best headphones for practice with 2 notes Le Crunch? I just recommended these ones. Don't make me say the name again. Somebody posted in the these are only $60, I think, or 70, $69.95, something like that. SM1s, they're called, I think. Yeah, SM1 from SACB1-SM1. I don't know the name of the company, but if you look for SM1 headphones, you're going to find these. The folks that make them, they sent me this pair and asked me to, and I give them props all the time. There's terrific sounding headphones for the money. And you'll see like the reviews online are these headphones have no right to sound as good as they do for the money. And, it's true. They're really, really good. So I've been using them as my main headphones. Are very comfortable too, like really padded. So I really like them. Other ones I like a lot, like good commonly available, those Audio Technica, the ATM 50, I think they're called, something like that. Those are good. I used to use Sony 7506s because I just knew them, kind of like someone would know an NS10. But they're very hyped in the top end. They've got a lot of top end, but I know how to mix on those. They've got a very hi-fi kind of like, a lot of present sort of compared to something like a lot of the, Sennheisers or Bear Dynamic or different ones I've tried. The Sonys are just really bright, but I like them still, and I know how they're supposed to sound. So like I know how a mix is supposed to sound on them. It's kind of like an NS10. You got to make everything sound like quite ripping your head off with those, and like bright, and also not too much bass, just like an NS10. They're like the NS10 of headphones. I don't know if that's a thing, but that's just my opinion. John L says, just to say thanks for what you do here. Thanks, John. You come here to watch me spill my coffee all over myself, and I appreciate it. I do. Thank you for being here, and thanks for doing the super chat. Robin as well in the super chat. He says, I'm moving to New York City. Moving from New York City to London. I have 2 Engel amps with US power supplies. What should I do? Get new transformers or get a power converter? That's a great question. That would be something I would contact Engel about, actually, and ask them what their opinion is. Like how easy is it to switch over those amps? And do they have a UK service center that could maybe perform that for you with the transformer? Maybe it's not that big of a deal, but maybe it is. But I would probably inquire. If you're going to be moving permanently, it's something that I would consider doing, just having the amp switched. But yeah, it's a question for them. Maybe it's no big deal. Maybe it is. The step down transformer, do you really want to deal with using that all the time and having to, if it's a stationary thing where it's just in your place and you're not moving around a lot, I guess it wouldn't be any big deal. But if I was gigging a lot, it's another thing you got to carry around, and contact Engel for sure and ask them, I would say. Henrik is in Norway. I miss that place. Love that country. Big fan. Thanks, man. He says, what's your best tip for building speed when soloing? I'm struggling to build speed. A friend of mine has a video coming out on this that I contributed to recently. I'm not sure when he's putting it out, but it's I'll just say it's a samurai guitarist. As some of you guys might know if you search for him on YouTube, but he's got a video exactly about your question coming out. And I contributed one idea to it. And I think it's going to be a whole bunch of different people with basically opinions on how to build speed. So watch for that on his channel. Maybe subscribe. He's a super cool guy and makes nice videos and great guitar player. Other than that, get the Paul Gilbert Intense Rock 1 and 2. Just work those exercises, as well as I remember Steve Morse's instructional video from the 80s. That was one that I learned how to play 2 mini notes, that thing. And some of the things he does in that video, just cross picking through, the arpeggios on 2 many notes is like really difficult for me to this day. As well as the single note stuff kind of on the first and second string in that song. But, work on stuff like that and do it with a metronome, always working with a metronome, always playing, completely clean, like really being, maybe record yourself playing whatever the lick you're working on, the exercise, playing with the metronome, and record yourself and make sure you listen when you listen back, like, do I sound like I'm playing in time and am I nailing it? And then play it that, limit with a metronome and just up the metronome like 1 point every day or 2 clicks until you get up to where you want to go. And it's really the metronome is like the, we used to call it the Malmsteen machine. So yeah, that's, it'll push you. Do you get to read my email with my suggestion from Phil? I didn't, Phil. I'm sorry. I'm so bad about the emails this week. I've had a lot going on, and the emails is not something that I've kept up on very well. But I'm going to look for your. Got some coffee on my keyboard when I spilled there that I missed. I'm just going to put your in here, Phil. I'm not seeing your email, Phil. Can you re-forward it to me? When I put your name in. Oh, maybe there. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure this is. You sent me an email a long time ago, Phil, and I'm not sure this is the same. Can you send it again? Because I'm seeing this email, but it's way back from August. And I'm sorry I missed it, but I miss a lot of emails. Not the best at email. Just re-forward it to me again, because I don't think this is the one that you're referring to that I just pulled up here. Brisley says, you better wipe that coffee on your keyboard quick. Yeah, I think I got it all now. I think I got lucky. I know, yeah. Sugar, it's bad for keyboards. Doesn't really work. What's your advice on getting through a rut? I feel like my progress is stalled, and that next level is just going to be out of reach, says Craig. I know what you mean. We were just talking about it. I mean, I was just suggesting, like little things, little ideas from, the folks that I watch on YouTube now, or, always Tim Pierce. Like Tim Pierce's Studio Masterclass. I don't know how you couldn't sign up for that. I think it's 100 or 100 and something a year for access to all the videos in his masterclass. How you could not garner like a lot of incredible information and move forward watching something like that. I would say just do that. Or, Paul Gilbert, if you're into rock and you want to, sign up for his course, his online guitar school where he's always, posting new lessons, and there's somewhat of a one-on-one thing where you can send in videos and he critiques, and all that. Try that stuff. He's an amazing teacher, that guy. I took a private lesson from him once and it was awesome. Yeah. So, let's see. What else we got here? I have a Dunlop Echoplex style delay. I just lost. How did you get it to not sound strange without a loop? Sounds like an Echoplex to me. I don't know. I just put it in front of the amp, and you got to run the mix kind of low if you're running it in front of dirt. But by strange, what do you mean? Define strange. Is the mix too loud? Is it too wobbly? Because there's different settings in it for there's some hidden kind of push button things where for the mod, the kind of the wow and flutter, where you can tweak it. So be aware of that, because if you're finding it makes it sound too out of tune or something, maybe you don't like that, and you can chill that out. Let me know what you mean by strange. Let's see. What's the largest bird you think you could fight? That's from Adam. You don't want to get in a fight with a Canada goose. I'll tell you that. Because if they're pissed, they will come after you. Kind of relentless. The largest bird. I don't know. I mean, I think I could take a Canada goose, actually. I might come out a little bit bloody, but I think I'd win. Angus Potter says, hey, Pete, I just bought a UA Apollo Solo and was wondering if I had any experience with one. And yes, I do. And know how many plugins it can run. Well, I don't have with that particular interface, but they're a single processor, I think. How many plugins? It depends on the plugin. So with UA, like, if you pull up one of their 610 preamps or something, or something like an 1176, they don't use very much juice, but like the Ocean Way Studios plugin will take all the juice from that chip. So it just depends. Any other recommendations on any good UA plugins? The PT100, of course. Got to try that. PT100. Okay, what else? Well, the LA2A is amazing. The B15. Do you play bass? It's awesome. It's just lovely. The B15 from Brainworks sounds amazing. I like the SVT too. I actually like the B15 more, but the SVT is cool. Why are we talking bass? Those bass players. That's not what we do here. I love playing bass, actually. The GK is great, too. The GK bass amp, really nice. SSL channel strip is kind of like all you need for EQ, really. I mean, it's so versatile and, you know, it's got a nice compressor in it. And if you just have one EQ compressor strip thing, get that one, I would say. I use the Neve 1073 and 1081 quite a bit. What else? That's kind of a, you know, like I say, LA2A, probably one of the 1176s you're going to want. The DBX 160 is great for a compressor, for a different thing. It's very fast, and it just kind of puts everything right in your face and is really cool. Like that a lot. What else? Ocean Way Studios is amazing, but it's a super, you know, processor hog. Uses a lot of juice. The standard precision mod delay thing is a great delay. Can be tweaked to sound really good. The Echoplex is really nice. So there's some different plugins that, you know, both just kind of recording and also guitar centric ones. SSL 2-bus compressor I use all the time. And the for mastering, the Brainworks Master Desk. Use it all the time. Okay. Joe Soap says, I want to belt sand my EVH Wolfgang. Whoa, flat top to do an arm cut. Doesn't have to be perfect. I just don't want to finish to splinter or crack. Geez, I don't know, dude. I'm not a luthier. I don't know. Sounds scary to me. I'm staying out of that one. Pete, can you open up your Mojo Vibe pedal and show where the internal trim pot is set? I tweaked mine years ago and I can't find where the stock setting is. I don't even know where it is, dude. It's probably, I've got it in a bin. I could look it up. I've got it in a bin somewhere. But yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Let's see. How did the carbon copy and Dunlop Echoplex compare? The carbon copy would be way darker, analog, with its mod. It's way more of that, you know, analog mod thing as opposed to brighter tape warble with some sort of distortion. You know, that's the difference. Darker would be the main thing on the carbon copy's darker. What are your favorite Tone Talk episodes? The Jakey Lee one. Come on, Dave can't even talk at the end. The one that I was on, where Dave can't even talk at the end, with George. No, I don't know. What else? They've done some amazing ones. Some other ones that I really enjoyed. The Lukather ones, always fun. I'm getting a Sir Reactive Load IR. What IRs do you recommend besides the built-in one? Says Leroy. Well, I really like York IRs. I really like, you know, mini Celestion IRs. So, and Ownhammer has a great mix of, you know, if you like the Ownhammer greenback loaded GNR cabinet. It was a cabinet that they used on that last GNR studio album or something. He got a hold of that and he made some. Those are really nice greenback IRs. I think he's got a Friedman package as well that are really nice. So check out some of those. Yeah. Okay. Could I book you for recording a solo for a song? Says Leon. My answer is always maybe. I always like to make sure I bond with the music and that it's something that I feel like I, you know, would be able to lend my talents to. Whatever my talents are. Spilling coffee on my keyboard. Yeah. Let's see. Who else we got here? Yeah, somebody's saying those headphones I'm recommending. Status Audio CB1. Status. That's the name of it. I don't know why I can't remember that. I always forget the name of the company. Have you ever watched YouTube guitar player Dave Simpson? Says Simon. I have not, actually. Prince Westerberg was saying, who was asking about angle? There was a fellow asking about moving from the US to the UK and having his angles possibly converted, or should he just use a step down transformer when he moves? I was saying maybe get in touch with Angle and ask how easy it is to convert the amps. Thoughts or past experience with Magnatone, says Lauren. I love the stereo one that came out like 10 years ago or 12 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever it was. But, you know, the stereo 212 one, God, it's one of the best sounding amps I've ever heard, honestly. I wanted it right away. I was like, that is amazing guitar sound. So organic and lovely. Yeah. Leon says, hey, Pete, would you make a PT100 signal chain preset for the Apollo interface and or maybe for the Pod Go? You know, I have presets in the PT100 plugin. Is that what you mean? Like for the plugin? Like some of my presets are included in there. I did like a 3-channel one that's like, here's my basic 3-channel, you know, if you go from 1 to 1. So they're in there and they come with the plugin. I did it. I think I got it figured out how to drink out of this cup. Spiro says, has he already spilled his coffee over his chair? Or am I late? No, I did it. You're late. I'm not doing it again. Stealth Parrot says, don't they have switchable input power? I think you're asking about the Angle, the amps. You know, some amps offer that and other ones don't. And I've never really got a handle on why, but I know it's to do with laws and CE or whatever, all this, like, you know, with switching we're talking about switching the power, like on an amp from, you know, 220 to, or 240 to 120, or, you know, the different voltages and taps on the transformer and all that stuff. I don't think Sir does it, and I think there's a good reason why. You'd have to ask him what that reason is, though. And it's to do with, you know, certification and kind of a nightmare when it comes to the regulations and stuff like that. I think the answer I got, but I could be wrong about that. I hope I'm not. They're $59, says Ronnie Ward. I assume you are talking about the CB1 headphones that I recommended. I think that's right. They're great headphones for that. I mean, they're just really balanced and full sounding without being woofy or without being too bright. Tom C says, have I tried the Shure? Can't believe I said that. The Sir Woodshed. Maybe it's because I saw the double Shure Woodshed, Sir Woodshed, the Andy Wood compressor. I haven't, and I can't wait. I want to try it. I think it's going to end up on my pedal board. I don't know why I say that. I just think it is. Yeah. Okay. What else do we got here? Do you ever play cheaper guitars like Squier or Epiphone? I have a slew of Dan Electros. 12-string, couple 12 strings actually, couple 6 strings, and a baritone that I use all the time in my videos. I think they're fantastic. They're really fun tone tools. Those are my cheaper guitars of choice. I also have a nice little Supro around here that I need to make more use of. Okay, I'm going to go down to the bottom of the chat here and see what we got down here. Yeah. Is there a pedal board switcher you would recommend or one you would never recommend? They're all pretty damn good. I mean, there's a lot of options out there. I use Musicom Lab. I also like the Boss, because the best thing about the Boss is it's going to be built like a Boss and, you know, built to withstand lots of abuse and easily available. If you run into a problem, you could probably find one in a foreign country on tour or something. You know, they're easy to get. RJM, I really like the Mastermind, I believe it's called, the pedal board controller with a great big display. It's a very nice display, probably the best one out there. And it's got, you know, ability to do series parallel stereo loops. With some really cool features. What else? The Gig Rig. Give Daniel some props. He makes great switchers. You know, the buffering options, and I think the ability to change the level on each of the loops so you can boost or do different things is very cool. So there's some different ones. Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay. What else we got here? Do I own a birth year guitar? That's a great question. I don't think. And I would love to. Like probably a Strat, like a 71 big headstock Strat. That would be something I would love to have. It's cool. You're making me think I should look for one. My amp is, my Marshall back there is almost birth year. It's, I think, a 72. So, not quite my birth year, but when you played the Euphoria morning stuff, what kind of tunings are those? You know, I'd have to go back and think about it, but I don't think there's a hell of a lot of alternate tuning going on. There's some capo stuff. Is there a lot of alternate tuning on Euphoria Morning? I don't think so. I mean, songs from around that time, like Seasons and stuff, are no, but that wasn't on that record. It's that's a crazy tuning. Chris was not afraid of the crazy tunings, I'll tell you that. And he used them to great effect, you know. Really great effect. You know, be it a lot of those tunings, like the, you know, were really ringy and kind of open, like like Seasons, like I say, is FFCCCF is the tuning on that, I think. And so you need to literally like put take the A string off the guitar and put, I mean, you don't have to, but it's going to get pretty sloppy if you tune it all the way down to F. Put another E string gauge on there. It's the way to really get it to sound, you know, good. And then also the G string on the guitar, you need to change to a lighter string to go so that you can get it up to C, and you've got the two C's, then the, you know, third and second string. And it's just got the sound when you do that. And so this very ringy kind of roots and fifths thing, and then the way that he plays the riffs and all that. And it's a great tuning, actually. It's really cool. Anyways, what else we got here? Terry says, I have a Marshall Origin 20 right now. When it comes to speakers for it, should I be looking at low wattage or high wattage to use with it? I would use a greenback with that. It's a good old greenback of some sort. Sound great, you know. Any plans with Surin Line 6 to do a PT100 in the Helix? I'd love that, says Brandon. Line 6 isn't really, they don't really like ask. They just kind of go ahead and do it, which is why they don't use the real names or anything like that for the amps, you know. So that would be up to them. But the closest thing I've found is the Placator, which is kind of their BE model, which is pretty similar. You know, gets you right in the ballpark. Pete Lasis is up there in the super chat, and he says, love the high gain amps in the zone. Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. Can you confirm what woods your Sir Modern is? And is it a basswood body? It's actually alder, the Mata Germino Slade. I'm going to come back, Peter, to you just before this other one disappears. It's Duncan Plexico. What's up, man? And he says, greeting. What recording studio has been your favorite so far? Have you ever been to Abbey Road? I've never been to Abbey Road. I'd love to go to Abbey Road. My favorite recording studio? Cello is pretty, it's now East-West in LA. Is pretty damn cool, just because it's rock and roll and the Beach Boys, and, you know, there's so much, there's a lot of history there. The Village is really cool too for the same reason. Probably my favorite experiences have been at what is now Sphere, which was Linda Perry's studio. Used to be Kung Fu Gardens. And you can see in a lot of, like, they did the Bob Rock Gibson video in there in the room that looks like a library almost. And it's a really amazing studio facility. It's beautiful. It's very close to where I am right now, actually. But I love that room. So there's some nice ones. It's breathtaking, really, when you go in the live room. I mean, it's huge high ceiling with all the walls covered in books. And drums all on one wall. It's like a whole drum wall, like with, you know, spaces for the snares and the kicks and everything. And then it looks like like I say, like a library. It's just gorgeous. And all the gear is incredible. And it's just like, I'd love to work there more. Go back and do some more there. It's been 10 years. So Peter, high gain amps in the zone. Yeah. So the Sir Modern is made of alder. And the Wolfgang I used in that video is basswood with a maple top, of course. Yeah. So I noticed as always, I learn things, and I noticed that the Wolfgang is not quite as hot, and that you would assume that's normal. It's got 14K or whatever Alnico magnet pickup in it, and then the Doug Aldrich pickups are really hot, and but they're not dark sounding, but they have a lot of level coming out of them, that bridge pickup, and it's a little bit of a dirtier sound coming out of that guitar. I mean, it'll nail the front end of your amp, and just kind of if it pummels the amp really. And so that's a different thing. Different sound using. Usually I play low output pickups, so I thought for this I'll play the high output pickups. A couple guitars that I have around with really high output ones. But it was really fun doing that video. I was wondering, did you guys watch that video? Anybody got any comments about the amps or questions about the amps, the Soldano, the Germino, the top hat? Some people said the top hat sounded scooped, and I'm looking right now. I've got the mids on like 4, so I did actually use a little less mids. And it's basically a Marshall Plexi style EQ on that amp. And I could have pushed the mids up a little bit more, but it sounded right to me at the time. Just was a cool contrast. Richard Knoll is there in the super chat, and he says, I dug out an old Rockman Chameleon. God, what's the matter with me? To try in my effects loop in my Soldano Avenger 50, and wow, how much better modulated effects sound. Rocktron made great stuff, man. I mean, I used to use a Replifex, and I loved it. I'm not sure how similar that processor is, but it was a great thing. I like Rocktron, good stuff in that company. Okay, so what do you guys say about the John says the PT100 kicked all their asses. PT100 is great, right? I mean, it's got it's kind of like a balance between all of them. It's just a great high gain sound, and with the boost in front, it's almost unfair because it can get a little bit tighter and stuff. But yeah, Pete, why don't you have the Sir guitar from the Steve Stevens shred video? Says Nathaniel. That was something they just asked us to do. I don't think Steve got one of those guitars either. Sir is just, Sir's very, very, very good to me. So it's like, if they're like, hey, can you make a video for this other thing? I'll always be like, sure, of course, no problem. So they wanted us to do a video, and I thought, well, it's a great opportunity to do something with Steve, who I love, and it's an honor to, jam with that guy. And I was happy to go there. I'd never seen the guitar before the day I got there, over to his place. And, I think it's a Zebra, cool guitar. It's fun. What else we got here? Let's see. The original Frankie was Northern Ash. Somebody's asking about Eddie Van Halen's guitar. I believe so. Yeah, it's quite heavy ash. And it's a different sound. Would you like to work with Linda Perry again? I would love to. Yeah, I've totally lost touch with her, which is sad. I'd love to go do some projects with her again. I always had fun, She's a teaser. I'll say that about her. Always giving you shit. always poking fun. Always taking the piss. That's Linda. Lots of fun, though. I miss her. She's cool. We had a good rapport, and I miss doing stuff with her. Metalwork Studio for me, says Ben. Only studio I've recorded in. Well, that's a legendary one. Gil Studio up there in Canada. Pete, your signature, sir, is one of the nicest guitars I've played. Incredible neck, tons of clarity and tonal variety, says Ibanez Tube Screamer. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's a versatile across the board working man's machine, that's for sure. Working woman's machine, whoever out there is using it. I hope you like it. I loved every amp in the vid, says Smelly Telly. It's funny because there's a lot of good amps out there and stuff, and the way that you dial it in, if it's one guy dialing them in, you're probably gonna like what they do or not. It's like, right? Like different shades, especially if you're using the same cabinet and guitars and stuff. You're just varying the amp. If that's the one thing that's different, Did you complete the MXR Timmy demo, says Jeff? They never really actually formally asked me to make a video of it. I would like to, because it's a great pedal, actually. But yeah, I would like to. what about working session guitarist in LA now? Do you think the good guitarist can earn money for a living by doing guitar sessions, says Guitar Entertainment? I don't know, to be honest. I some do. I think there's other ways to make money as a musician now. There's other ways to earn a living. And the problem with the music business is nobody buys music anymore. So, there's less there. There's less that many are competing for. You know what I mean? Like, and I was never like the session guy, really. I did sessions, like I was talking about Linda and stuff. It's like that's something that I've done, but not to the extent of the great session guitar players, obviously, or that we all know and talk about, like Tim and Michael Thompson and guys like that. Dean Parks and Lukather and these, but those guys will tell you, I think that those days are over somewhat. That Lukather certainly will say that it's non-existent compared to what it used to be. Obviously, some people are doing it though. I these days, like with the kids these days, I know some of these younger players and stuff, and there's a thing like with modern pop music where there's these guys that'll come up with little guitar riffs, little 4-bar phrases or 2-bar phrases, and then they loop them, and then they use those as hooks in songs, and then you actually get writing on the tune. That's a whole thing. Or these younger artists that are like that, folks we probably don't even talk about here, that are doing stuff like that. So there's that, but I'm not in that game. The thing about making money playing music these days is like there's lots of ways to do it, and if you find your niche, then you can do it, and you don't have to. I mean, like I've got my own thing that I do, which is it's generally your diversified income streams are all over the map, and that's how I do it, and I do just fine, with that. And so that's very broad. I know I don't really like, but you guys know what I do. I'm here. I'm making videos for pedals and things like that. I'm doing occasional sessions for people. I still tour, which is the main way I made my living for a number of years. It's just I diversified away from that. So touring was really my thing, making money for playing on the road, playing gigs on the road for 15 years. That was my main source of income. And well before YouTube. I mean, since 96 or 7, that was what became my main source of income until 20. Yeah, I mean, like 15 years, 2015, 2016. And then, now it's like, this has become way more of what I do. And all of a sudden YouTube, and like it figured out a way to do it in a way that has made it like, well, I'm basically doing as well as I was back then. And I was gone all the time back then. I was constantly on the road, making a weekly, not, making my salary. So it's that diversification these days that lets you do different things. And the one thing, I'll say about like working for companies and making videos of, the guitar pedals, let's take for instance, right? Those people are still selling something that is physical, that costs money to buy, right? With music, people aren't paying for it anymore. So even though, guitar pedals don't sell what a song or an album would have for a big artist back in the day, these companies are still making something that's physical that they're selling, that are, like the record labels right now and songwriters and stuff are having to find ways to do what I'm talking about, which is diversify, with making money through merch or making money through, doing these days, it's like, because nobody's touring, it's like paid live streams or things like that, right? They're diversifying away from the old model of, so, and these are songwriters and stuff that are figuring out ways to do, songwriters and labels, and they're all figuring out, because nobody's paying for music. So it's like, my way of diversifying away from that old model of like hoping to get in a band, get signed, and make a bunch of money on the road, or hoping to be a session guitar player that gets paid for playing on people's albums. It's just like, there's not enough. I guess my answer is there's not enough there that I can see, and it's a tight knit, group of people that are doing that kind of stuff, as it's always been. Sessions have always been, it's been tough to break into that world, because if you get into that world and you figured out that game and a way to make money doing that, you protect it, you know, like, and your little secrets in your network of producers or people that are hiring you is it maybe somewhat of a tight secret. And, you know, and the producers are happy to hire you to get to it because you deliver, and you're happy to work for them because they're the ones paying your bills. It's like, to be honest, it's almost like I do that now, but I do it with, I know it sounds silly maybe to some, but it's not silly to me. The videos that I make, you know, that's my producer game, is Boss, Source Audio, you know, what was the Million MXR, every single pedal company under the sun that's smaller, that's doing, you know, videos. But, you know, you've got folks in Russia and folks in Greece and folks in, you know, England, and lots in America and in Japan and South Korea and all over the place. And all these people are contacting you, wanting you to basically do sessions for them. It's a session, you know, you're recording something and then you're giving them it's the exact same damn thing in a way, you know, but it's just like, the difference is those people are all selling something that people are still purchasing. So if they want to hire you to do a session for them, does that make sense? It's like, you know, and it's kind of like the same thing where back in the day, a player could curate the sessions that if you're in demand, they would be like, yeah, I don't know if I'm right for that project. Right. I do the same thing when somebody asks me to do something. It's like, if I'm like, yeah, I don't really get the sound of this thing, or I don't get the workflow or whatever, I can say I'm not going to do it. And then, like, because let's be honest, I mean, I don't toot my own horn a lot, but I am well aware that I'm one of the guys that is at the top of his game doing that. Right. And so, and I feel fortunate to be there, but it actually took a hell of a lot of years and it was a lot of hard work. So I guess I protect it in the same way. And I also feel like, to some degree, like, yeah, as long as I keep working hard as I always have and stuff, like, I sort of deserve to be there, right? Because it's like, I mean, this is all, I put hours and hours and hours of every day into working on this one thing. And so that's my session world. I don't know. What was my point? It's a long-winded ass answer. But the point is that there's different ways to do this stuff these days. And I feel like if you're trying to get into it, why get into a pool of, like, to me, it just doesn't make sense anymore to try and be one of the guys that's doing something where there's not a hell of a lot of money actually being made by anybody. You know, you're trying to get into something that's really a smaller and smaller, you know, I just don't, you know, as I get older, it's like, I don't want to do that. I want to figure out a way to be part of something moving into the future that seems like there's more opportunity. Okay. Andrew Stevens says, I'm so wanting to put your signature pickups in a Partsacaster that I'm building. First build, and I love these pickups. Eventually I can afford them. Hey man, I hope you like them. And I think they're terrific pickups for Partsacasters. Like, you could do 2 humbuckers in a single in the middle and get a good jillion sounds out of that guitar, or just do the 2 humbuckers like is in my signature guitar. So thank you very much, Andrew. I appreciate that. I do. What else we got here? That's a totally new frontier of sessions and production, says David. Yeah, you know, I mean, not to go back to it for too long, but it's like, I agree. It's all I'm doing is making little pieces of music. And, you know, most of the comments say, like, I'm just here for the tunes or whatever. That's the thing, is it's like, I'm just finding a new way to make some music that hopefully there's some folks. It's all about the little songs to me. And then the pedal is influencing the tone or whatever. But, you know, in the same way that hopefully, you know, I don't know, Ed used a Memory Man or whatever and came up with a part that sounded cool. And then the music resonated with people. But then some folks are interested in the pedal. How do you get that sound? You know, that's what I'm trying to do or whatever, you know. And if you can figure out, you know, a way to do that, you know, yeah. Are you planning on doing a separate video for the SLO 100, says Eddie? You know, it sort of deserves its own, I guess, you know, amps in the zone video, doesn't it? I mean, so I always thought of doing one, maybe with an old one and the new one and combining them, you know, its own kind of like, you know, maybe do it a little, try and do an interview with Mike or something, if he would be down. I think that would be a great video, actually. Like, he's a great guy, it seems like, and seems very, you know, I love seeing him speak and the thing. He seems like a really nice person, and I've only met him once and talked to him, and it was very nice. But to come up with, you know, 5 or 6 in-depth questions and maybe a little interview might make for a nice video. Angus says, how much would you say that Sir has changed his guitars over the years? Paul never does reissues of his guitars because he says he's always improving. Would you say Sir has chosen his lane? No, I think he's always coming up with new ideas and things. The quality has always been there with Sir, you know, because he's, I mean, going way back to the 80s of, you know, probably by the time he started the company, he had pretty set in stone, you know, like a, you know, he knew how to build guitars at that point, right? He was, you know, he had managed Fender Custom Shop, I do believe, and, you know, done the Pensasurs and stuff 10 years prior to, you know, so, but he always does, you know, he's find new ways to do things. So for instance, like, you know, things like the butcher block finish that he's doing on some of the necks now and stuff like you see on my red HSS style guitar, that's a kind of a new thing. You know, little things like that. Refinement when it comes to even like parts that they choose, like, you know, the locking tuners that they choose now, the way that they do things. He continues to make little improvements. I just think that they were so stellar to begin with that an old Sir is still a great guitar. My green one, you know, is a terrific guitar. There's some different things about it. For instance, the noiseless system in it. They used to use the Illich system, right? You know, and now they've got their own. So that would be an improvement, I guess. It still sounded great. The old noiseless system was great. He just did some things a little different. The PT100, the first PT100, you know, the custom audio one, great amp. And then we made a bunch of mods and improvements, different things like that. And I like the second version more, although I still think the first one's great. From even the silver face PT100, I have one here in the studio though, to the blue ones, which I have, you know, I'd love to have a blue one here, but they're in Japan, my blue amps. They're both over there. So I've got one of my silver ones in here. From this version to the blue one, they made some little improvements in the way that the circuit board is laid out that allowed them to actually make them easier. And there was actually kind of some of the wire runs were a little shorter. A couple little, you know, small. I don't know if anybody would ever notice a difference in the sound or whatever, but John said there may actually even be a little, like, you know, little difference here and there. Because it's just like he thought, how can I do this even a little bit better? So he's always, you know, thinking about these things and how maybe, you know, in the next version of something they could, you know, up the game a bit. So you're going from really, really awesome to even maybe little improvements above that, is I think the thing with Sirs. Any thoughts on Petty John? That's William. I've done some videos for Petty John pedals. I think they're impeccably made, and I think they've got some great tones, you know. I did a few for, you know, so you can check out my videos and get more in-depth sort of thoughts and stuff. Alex Masano Music says he's up there in the super chat. Top chat. Thanks, buddy. He says, you mentioned you used to own a dual rectifier. Have you used it in any recordings we can check out? Also would love to see the L5 in any amps in the zone. It would be one sound. It would be the Ty Tabor sound. The dual rectifier I owned was maybe not one of the desirable ones. It was a 3-channel. I got it right after those came out, and I used it on the whole 40-foot Echo album. So the entire record, which is a band that I played in for a little bit back around 2003. That entire album was almost exclusively dual rectifier, because that was the thing back then. But I like the tones. It's grindy and that dual rectifier thing. I used the top hat that you see sitting right over my shoulder on a few solos on that record. Like, I think the solo on Tomorrow was the top hat, and maybe a few other, there's a couple others. I'm not going to remember what the parts were, but I had that amp in the studio and used it as well for some alternative things. Mainly the dual rectifier, though, on that whole record, which you can stream on iTunes or Spotify or anything. It's the one with the Conehead guy on the cover. Honest opinion about Quad Cortex, says Sheldon. I'm having a pretty awesome time with it. You know, I've been a part of the sort of, I guess, the beta period, and they've been making improvements and, you know, discovered some issues as happens, right, with these things. There's been a few things that have been maddening, to be honest, but they seem to iron them out, which is, you know, great because it's not out yet. So they're figuring out all this stuff. Long story short, it's pretty amazing. I enjoy, here's my visceral, most honest opinion about it is that I generally don't want to stop playing it. And there's been a few nights here where I've come up with things and I'm sitting here jamming and I don't want to go home. It's pretty good, right? I mean, it's it's just enjoyable, and the effects are incredible. It's a fun device to make music with and just sit and jam with. I'm making a video on it now. Yesterday, the videos are going to be coming out for it from everybody, I think, later in the week. I made a Princeton reverb capture and showed that process yesterday in the video. Today I'm going to do the same thing with some high gain ones, and I'm going to do a bunch of the captures today, I think, of a bunch of different amps and stuff. And then I think in this video, my Quad Cortex video, I think it'll be a bunch of short pieces of music instead of doing one long bit at the beginning. I think it would be more effective for me to do a bunch of different things, kind of as my experience playing, I made a bass sound the other day to do a session that I did for somebody. And I was like, well, let's use this thing. Let's try it. There's bass captures in there that came from the factory. So I pulled up an SVT and I tried some of the heavier ones. And it was like, wow, that sounds cool. It wasn't appropriate for this track, though. I needed a clean one. But I had fun right away playing through some of the heavier ones that I found. And then I found a clean one and just paired it with the 810 SVT cab. And I put an opto compressor after that. And it's just that nice drag and drop kind of thing with the touch screen. And I pulled up a bass sound and I wrote this bass part. And it was like, this sounds great. Like, just instant gratification was there. So I think that I think it's great, to be honest. I don't know what else to say. It's like, I'll always be an amp guy, but I want to try it out and maybe use it 4 cable with the PT15 as well in this video. That should be something else that I want to demonstrate in my video, I think. So there's a top chat up there. Peter says, cheers from cold YEG. For those that don't know, that's the Edmonton Airport code. Got Adam's A77X. Are those the big ones, or did you double type 7? Awesome. That's great. Question, UA interface and virtual pre-plugins or a decent other interface plus quality onboard preamps. UA interface and virtual pre-plugins or a decent other face plus quality outboard preamps, you said. Pros and cons and quality compared. I think the preamps in it are great, to be honest. Like the UA preamps and the using, if you get one of their Neve or SSL or something, that I've never done a comparison. I should probably do it, like do a 57 through my BAE 1073 and then do the same. It'd be easy for me to do that, make a video on a guitar cab and compare. What is that noise outside? It's driving me crazy. It's making noise out there. You probably can't hear that. Anyways, I think that like generally speaking, you just get the UA and then try it. First of all, as an interface, I definitely recommend it over most of what else. There's some other great. I like Apogee interfaces too, and so. But I really, I'm a pretty diehard UA guy these days, I guess. So with this stuff, they're just so rock solid. That's the main thing. I don't have a lot of problems with them. Like, and this might be a thing of the past anyway, but I've had problems in the past with interfaces. Like futzy sounds or disconnecting or different. Then you got to reboot and like all that kind of stuff. I don't have any of those problems with the UA stuff. So that's really a nice thing. Let's see what else we got here. Is the Quad Cortex like the Kemper where it's a snapshot and you can't turn up gain and really mess with EQ? That's Angus. So the Quad Cortex has amp sims built in, but it'll also do captures. So it's kind of like having a Helix and a Kemper in one, in a way, right? Like where it comes with a bunch of captures from the factory, and it also comes with amp models. So I don't know what the difference is really, but I guess they physically modeled some amps and put them in there with a traditional sort of modeling process like you would find in an Axe-Fx or something, but then it'll also do the Kemper thing. Kind of, that's the thing. So it's both. And, when you do a capture, just like in a Kemper with doing a profile, you end up with a gain, bass, middle, treble, EQ that are all set on 5. And then you can kind of vary a little bit away from one or the other. Does that make sense? So I generally speaking, I think that you know, I think you're right. I think like if you make a capture, you don't want to vary too much. But I even found with the Kemper, you could raise or lower the gain a little, or raise or lower. I tried to always keep it within a, you know, like, you know, going from 4 to 6 on the control. If 5 is the indent, you know, that seemed to work well. What the hell is going on out there? Annoying. Let's see here. Hopefully that's an answer. The Quad Cortex versus Fractal in feel. I think that I don't know. Honestly, I would have to spend more time with it. I'm still, you know, I'd have to do a real back and forth, spend some more time. What time is it? 1:23. Go about another 10, 15 minutes here, and then I'll split. Let's see. Which do you prefer, Sustainiac or Fernandez Sustainer? I think they're the same, aren't they? Are they different? I didn't know that. I mean, I always thought they were kind of the same thing, but maybe they're not. Those guitars always seem kind of gimmicky to me. They're kind of fun to play, but I never heard anybody do things with them that I thought was really cool. So I don't know. Will the captures you do for the Quad Cortex demo be shared afterwards? That's Stefan. Maybe some of them. I don't know. I've always had mixed feelings about that. I'm just gonna check on what the hell's going on outside right now. Stay with me. Don't go away. I see. It's a building next door. They're doing some work in there. It sounds like with a staple gun or something. So, anyways, okay. Thoughts on the YJM Strat scallop neck? Contemplating the YJM Strat, but a bit skeptical on the full neck scallop aspect. Well, I like scallops. I think that is something that you have to maybe get used to a little bit, but I actually didn't have I've always played big frets, so scalloping to me never really bothered me. And I'd love to have one, to be honest. I'd love to have an ing-based Strat. Maybe I'm going to go on Reverb now and look for one. You just made me think of it. I don't know why. It's just kind of a unique, fun guitar to maybe have around. I know what you mean. It's like intriguing, you know? Yeah. Oh my God, Pete AWOL. No, I'm not. I just had to see what was going on there. It sounded weird sounds that I'd never heard coming from outside. And it's just there's a handyman here doing some work next door. Has anyone still got a 37 fret Washburn? Does anybody remember those? That's Prince Westerberg. I remember those where the fingerboard went all the way up with the super deep cutaway and there was only room for one pickup because there were so many frets. You just don't need to play that high. I go the other way. I go 21 fret these days. Yeah, Via is the only one who's done cool sustainer stuff, says Mike. Yeah, I would say that that's probably pretty accurate. I mean, I don't know. That always seemed like, you know, just kind of, I don't know. Harley says, then you don't listen to Steve Vai very much. Hey, I love Steve. We're buddies. Come on. I love Steve. He's amazing. You're right. I don't like deep get into, you know, I don't know the specific cuts where, yeah, which songs did I listen to by him that he's done using the sustainer. Travis says, I'm shopping for a one-space rack mount power conditioner like a Furman. I have one here, the what is it, M-8X2. Any real difference jumping from 200 to 400? Well, there's like metering and you know, lights that you can get on them and a few different things. I don't know, 200 to 400, maybe not. I think all the power conditioning is kind of probably pretty close. It's when you get into the power regulators that they get more expensive, where, you know, if you get a spike or a dip, that they will hold your voltage at 118 or whatever. And that's where you're going to see the big price difference. So I've heard the good filtered power can make a really big difference, and I'm almost scared of that because it's like, God, this is really something I need to worry about. But that was one thing Michael Beinhorn told me about, that You know, that one that Bonamassa uses now, that also AC/DC. It's a Japanese device. It's a two rack space thing that is a serious power regulator. I think it looks really cool. So Joe says the sustainer almost brought Eddie Van Halen down. Yeah, I did. Nobody thinks about, you know, we all love Ed, and nobody thinks about his sustainer days as being like the, you know, it's like, you know, kind of a not Ed O'Brien with Radiohead uses a sustainer in an interesting way, says Marie. I could see that. I could see that. Yeah. Steve Hackett uses a Fernandez, says Autotune. Let's see. Are you a Logic user mostly when making your tracks? Is it stable for you? Says Kelly. I'm mainly a Logic user. Yeah, I got into using Luna, which is the UA, recording system, or DAW, and I really like it especially for the sound is incredible with the Neve summing and the analog tape sim on every channel. I really like that, but I find the MIDI still difficult just because I'm used to how you do it in Logic, and my workflow is really getting slowed down because of that. And so just because of that, I really have been using Logic a lot this week, and it's been feeling like really good to kind of do that. There's no slight on UA because I really like Luna. Like I say, the sound is second to none, I think. So if I was just mixing, I would love to mix in Luna, for example. It's just the MIDI thing. There's little things it's crazy, the things that can hold you up a little bit, like with, MIDI, like, copying a region or grabbing a bunch of notes and copy pasting them, or, wanting to adjust the volume of drums, which is something I do a lot, right? In Logic, it's just really easy the way that they've got it mapped out. Whereas in Luna, it's not as easy. So little things like moving from snap to not having snap on, and you can move the notes freely. I find that easier in Logic. So it's just a few things, and yes, I find it very stable. And I like things about both, to be honest, about about both systems. But MeWise Magic, says John. Did he use a sustainer on MeWise Magic? Really? I thought that was MeWise Magic. Is that really a sustainer? Which I love, by the way, but I never really thought about it. Anyway, Jeff says, have you tried the Reb Beach Surneck profile? I've got one in my 2006 Classic. It's tiny, but feels great. I know it is quite thin, right? I think I have. John's got a bunch of their neck shapes, like blanks, in his office. So just guitar necks that are like every single shape. He has like a box of them. And sometimes when I'm there, I'll just pick those up and feel them. And I remember the Reb one being quite thin, but I've never played one of his guitars. So, yeah. Joe Peasy for Cheesy says, can the Sir Reactive Load IR be put on top of an amp head that has a vent on top of it? Yeah, I mean, the feet are quite tall. I wouldn't worry about it. I would do it. Paul says that Adrian Ballou has done some really great stuff with the Sustainiac on his signature Parker. Those are crazy expensive. $11K. Whoa. That's crazy. That's pretty wild. I remember Moog had one on their guitar. Do you remember the Moog guitar? Which was amazing. And it had some really interesting stuff in it. I remember they invited me to a kind of presentation of the guitar at a recording studio here in LA to show to some folks that were like, this is before I was even like, doing tons of stuff on YouTube, but I guess they knew me anyway. I guess it was 10 years ago or something. But anyway, I went and checked out this Moog guitar, and it was amazing. And it had the ability to do the sustainer thing as well as a bunch of other stuff, but you could also turn the sustainer the other way to make it not sustain. So it actually killed the sustain. So it kind of made the guitar sound like a Kodo a little more or something. Like you'd get these plucked notes that would then die right away. Kind of cool. It was interesting. Really a cool guitar. I don't even remember the other things about it because it was sort of short-lived, but the reason it was short-lived, like I remember saying, so how much does this thing cost? Because I wanted one when I saw it. And they were like, oh, it's $6,000 or something. I think it was like $6,000 or $7,000, and I just started laughing. I was like, "Whoa!" Like, and I'm cracking up, which is maybe not the response they wanted, but I guess it was honest. And yeah, I just, I think they came out with an import version of it that was maybe 3,200 or something, which was like more reasonable. But even still, it was like, God, this is really expensive, you guys. Like, you're introducing something that's a little, I don't want to say gimmicky, but like the Sustainer, it's kind of, anytime you got a new guitar thing coming, it can be a bit of a hard sell. And I felt like it was a bit of a, like, like if they had a proper video and some cool music being made with it and stuff, it would be really helpful and all that stuff. But then they told me how much it was. And they weren't like, I think like the artist price was like $5,000 or something. It's like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. So it didn't stick around very long. But Rising Havoc says, "Hey, Pete, great show today. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here." 1:33, another few minutes and I'm going to split. Mike the Bike says, "Greetings from Greece." And he says, "Have you ever played a YJM 100 Marshall?" I don't know if I actually played it or not. It's basically like their SLP, I think, but it's got it might have a post-phase master, right? And it's got a 250 built in, like the overdrive that he used. Love the whole idea of it. I never thought, I don't know why they discontinued it. Maybe it was something to do with him or something with the business deal. I don't know. But, I love the idea of a more usable plexi. And I think they seemed like they came up with it with that one, but didn't stick around for very long. They made it for a couple of years and that was it. Have you played a Tom Anderson drop top? I have, yeah. I played one a little while ago. When I was in Indonesia, I played one. And I like the necks on those, like the subtle V that's going on with the neck. And, Anderson's good friends with Sir. D. Marty says, "I'm outside with the staple gun. Sorry for the noise." Thoughts on Collings guitars? Really good. Sir has a nice one, like kind of is this the semi-hollow or is it the junior style? Can't remember. I've played a few, and their acoustics are beautiful. Linda Perry had a Collings acoustic that I used to use in a lot of sessions. It was very, very nice. I picked it over a lot of the vintage guitars she had there, like a lot to play on sessions. Favorite Sir neck shapes? I have a D-shaped neck on my Sir, and I'm thinking of changing it to a vintage 60s type shape. The 60s C standard, I think, is the one that I have on my white Classic S, and it's very nice. So if you don't, probably, a nice move away from the D that's not too different, but like in the overall thickness and everything. But 60C standard, I think, is quite a good, like, just good. Yeah. Lauren says, "Remember, if there's ever trouble there, I got your back." Thanks, man. I checked out your video on the Tech 21 Q strip. Nice EQ pedal that's kind of supposed to be like Neve style, I think. Would you compare it to the Sans Ampera driver? I don't know. I haven't really messed with that one. They're probably fairly similar, both EQs, right? But I haven't tried that one, so I'm sorry I can't. But I like the Q strip. I thought it was cool when I did the video for it. Peter Evans is up there in the super chat. Thanks, man. He says, "Happy Sunday. Something to contribute to gear. And plus affiliate link is." Thanks, man. Thanks for doing the super chat. My affiliate link for those that need guitar picks or banjo strings or kazoos or 5A drumsticks or tube microphones, noise suppressors, new cables, power supplies, guitar amplifiers, guitars. I don't know what else. iPhone cases. No, I don't know if they sell those. They probably do, but it's all at Sweetwater, and the affiliate link is down in the video description below. If you go there and you need something, it'll help support my channel. I appreciate it. Thank you, man, for doing the super chat. Rewind Electric is up there as well, and he says, "Thanks for the great content. Really enjoyed the EVH Plexi mods rundown. May I send in a couple of my EVH pickups for your upcoming shootout? Are you a pickup maker? Send me an email. PeteThorn@ymail.com. Send me an email there, and we can talk about it. Tell me about what you do. and it would be I think we can do it. This video might end up being 2 parts or something. I don't know. It's going to be a lot because there's a lot of pickups. But yeah, hit me up and let's talk about it. It's going to end up being a project, switching all these pickups in and out. But it's going to be fun. I got to think of a couple riffs to play. What riffs should I play? It's kind of focused on, obviously we'll dial up the amp, plexi. We'll do, I think, Mike Celestion, Mike JBL. That's in this cabinet. Do loosely Van Halen 1, Van Halen 2. But what riffs from those records should I play in this video? What do you want to hear? What makes the most sense? What else? Do roller bridges affect tone? That's a great question. Stealth Parrot. Like, the roller tunematic style bridge. I've often wondered that as well. Like if they're, like for example, on the B.B. King guitar, Lucille guitar, his might have had a roller bridge. I'm not sure, but it had the tailpiece with the fine tuners. And I always wondered if that tailpiece, because it's like, what's the disadvantage on a Les Paul? It's great having those fine tuners, maybe folks don't like the look or something. I don't know. But, and then a roller bridge. I remember Schaller had a great, really nice looking too, like kind of Nashville style or tunematic style bridge with the rollers on it. And I always wondered if because it would seem like they would be better than having the regular saddles, for at least for tuning. Hot for Teacher, says Robin. Well, I want to stick to Van Halen 1 and 2. Beautiful Girls, Somebody Get Me a Doctor. Okay. Those are good ones, of course. Dance the Night Away. Let's see. Definitely I'm the One. Yeah, I'm the One is a good, tough riff to play. I got to practice. On Fire. I can play I'm the One. It's one of the songs I know actually from front to back, the whole thing. But it's always tough to, Atomic Punk. On Fire. Yeah. Okay. Stealth Parrot says, always interesting, always educational. Thanks, man. And always comedy. Spilling coffee all over myself, etc. Let's see. Steven says, or Stefan, sorry. Marshall DSL 40 with V-type Celestion, 2 scooped and flubby low end. Any speaker suggestions for Satriani type lead tones? If it's 2 scooped, it's a combo, right? So I would maybe try, in those amps, I really like, you want tight low end? I would try a Creamback 75, but I'm wondering if you'll find it 2 scooped. But great sounding speaker, very big sounding speaker, I think, for, full sounding. If you go to a 65, it's going to have more mids and not be a scoop, but it's not as, it's the 35 ounce magnet or whatever. So it's a different sound. It's not as, you're saying flubby low end. That's why I'm just thinking flubby low end many times isn't the speaker though. It's like a little bit more like the design of the amp with the, you might do a simple mod to that amp or something. Cut a little bass or something. Send it to Friedman and have him mod it or something. I would like to see what he would do on a DSL 40 to kind of tweak it, because maybe it's not the speaker. Fools and Light Up the Sky. God, I love the riff to Light Up the Sky. That's great. Yeah. Mean Street. The thing about Mean Street's great. Yeah. Okay. Maybe Mean Street, even though it's not Van Halen 1 and 2. I was just thinking because I'm doing the guitar is going to be with the old tremolo, right? And I'm getting really geeky about this. And by then he was using the Floyd, and it's a different thing, I think. By the time we get to Mean Street, so specifically, the Van Halen 1, Van Halen 2 era, pre-Floyd Rose, standard Fender style tremolo era thing with the pickup, Chewy Says in the UK, have you ever had an issue with Fender Strats that have a very stiff string tension overall at concert pitch, more so than others? My EJ Strat is very stiff. It could be a combination of things, like smaller frets that give you that perception, or maybe the way that because technically it shouldn't be any different, but other things can make it feel that way, if you know what I mean. Like even like finish on the neck and fret size and things can affect the way that I perceive how playable the guitar is, if that makes sense. So I don't know if that's a thing. Go down a half a string gauge on that guitar and see what you think. If you use 10s, go to 9.5s. That's something I did a while back and I've really been enjoying. That's slightly more slinky gauge. Or you can go from 9s to 8.5s maybe. Do they make those? I think so. Vincent is up there in the super chat, top chat, and he says, is there a way to reduce single coil 60 cycle hum if a guitar doesn't have noiseless technology? Not really. The Illich, which gives you the noiseless technology. Look at, is that how you spell it? ILLICH. He makes a back plate for guitars, and it's like a coil that cancels hum somehow, and you can put it on an existing guitar. So that would be the way to do it. The Illich is the one way that I know that's really like something that you can do. That'll probably make a difference. Texan Leon says, I dig it. Thanks, man. Thank you for being here. All you guys in the top chat, super chat, thank you for all that you do and being here and spending time. Out of Love, says Joe F. That's a great one. Sorry. Pop my hair. Let's see here. What else we got here? Okay, moving down to the bottom of the chat and the split here in a sec. Do you ever get to try the Sir Guthrie Govan model? Yes. If so, thoughts? Like it. Like the neck very much. I actually have the Guthrie neck on my Modern. So it's very similar guitar, really, to his signature. Be different wood, I guess, but the body shape and the Floyd and the neck shape and everything is the same. It's a really nice neck to me. Kind of, I think they call it their modern elliptical or whatever, but it's like his profile is slightly different. Great neck. Do I find using different neck profiles make you play differently? Sort of, yeah. Axe Tamer Music Studio. Yeah, I would say so. And I kind of enjoy the different neck profiles these days. Like it used to be where I wanted all my guitars to feel the same when I was younger, and moving from one to another bothered me. Now I like a Tele, and then moved to a Les Paul, and moved to, and they're all kind of, oh yeah, it's like this rad feels a little different, I find that fun now. Just different guitars make me play differently, really. How long did it take you to get good at drum programming, says Angus? Not that long, because they're so good these days. The drum plugins are so simple. If you work the way I work, which is using Superior or Easy Drummer, and I'm starting mostly with pre-programmed grooves, and then I'm changing them subtly to match what I need. I'll find a groove that works basically, and then I'm like, okay, but I need to move the kick, from the end of whatever to the next beat. I'll just go in and do that. Listen to the mix of the drums. Like one thing I find with Superior Drummer, for instance, if anybody's out there that uses it, you can control the amount of cymbals that are in the room mics and in the overheads and stuff, the balance of the cymbals. Sometimes the crashes are really loud, and there's a phasey thing that can happen. So like, when you compress the drums a little bit, which I like to do, like on the master drum bus, put a little compressor there, makes it rock a little more and glues it all. It makes it sound a little more real. That'll bring out the cymbals even more. And you hear the cymbal and kind of, and you get the slightly phasey thing when the crash happens. You can just pull those crashes down a little bit in the room mics and in the overheads, and you'll get rid of that washy thing. So I have to do that a lot on a lot of their presets. I find the kick is sometimes punishingly loud in some of the Superior presets, especially the sub. So there'll be 3 mics on the kick sometimes. There'll be a sub, an outer mic, and an inner mic. And the sub, they get cranked up there pretty loud, and I'm like, it's a ton of sub, like many times in the presets, because they probably, they're hyping it up to make it sound really, whatever. So I'll pull that down a little bit, and then just pull the kick down a dB or 2 overall, like on the master kick fader. All of a sudden it comes into more focus. So taming the cymbals a little, taming the sub on the kick. and then compressing and all that little stuff. And then that's how, so I've learned that over the years, but really you're starting off from a pretty good place with really realistic drums. So Tinkerbell says recording acoustic drums is really tricky. It can be. I don't find it that tricky as long as the drum kit sounds good and you're in a good room. If you got a drummer that knows how to tune, because I don't know how to tune, so hopefully the drummer does, or you get the drum doctor to come in and tune the drums for you in LA. But it's actually a thing. We have the drum doctor. Anyways, if that's dialed in, like, it's an acoustic instrument, like an acoustic guitar. So if the acoustic guitar's got old strings and kind of not a very good sounding guitar to begin with, miking it in 400 different ways isn't going to make it sound any better. And it's the same damn thing with a drum kit, except it's kind of like having 8 acoustic guitars with every kit piece where you got to balance it and then hopefully get it in phase, So it's a difficult thing to do and make it sound really good. And of course the room, because it's such a loud instrument, so it's interacting with the room. And if you're recording in a less than optimal room, it's going to sound like that. So it can be a difficult thing. What's your guilty listening pleasure, says George Berry? Toxic by Britney Spears. Tell me that's not a badass track. One of the most badass tracks of the last 20 years. And it's just probably 20 years old now. So when I heard that song, I was like, that is the most crazy production I've ever heard in modern kind of production at that point. And it blew everybody's mind. I mean, with the strings and it's a great song. Come on. It's just a great song. You're toxic. Whatever. Love that shit. Love Toxic, same reaction. Great answer, said Brisley. Yeah, come on, that song rules. It's just good. Good. So I don't care what the music is if it's good, and that shit is just good. That was amazing. Anybody follow her on Instagram? Oh, man. Wow. Ooh. I'll tell you what. I'm going to go soon, but go check out Brittany's IG if you haven't. Thank me later. Or don't. Curse me later. Whatever happened with Guthrie and Sir? I always wondered. They're on good terms. Sir changed the way that they do their artist program a lot since Guthrie was there. Back when he was there, the only signature models they had were Andy's and his, I think, at the time. It was a very limited program, and they were, a fairly young company, really. I mean, still at that point, I've only been around 10 years or something like that. And there was like, I don't want to say growing pains, but I guess you could call it that, with the way they were doing things. And I think Guthrie wanted a certain thing, and then the Sir folks, there was a dispute, not really a dispute, just like a difference of whatever. And then I think he just kind of, whatever. And I think that there was never any hard feelings or anything like that. It was just like maybe they couldn't, do exactly what he wanted to do accommodation wise or whatever at the time. I'll just say that. No hard feelings, no anything between them as far as I know. And things are much different now, there, I would say, than whatever was going on back then. So I think that, if he was, had he, let's say now, it would be a different story, probably. So that's as much into it as I will get. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it wouldn't be a different story, but the thing with here's the thing with Sir, and the difference between a company like, I would say, Fender or Ibanez or these companies. There are great big companies, those companies, and they have a lot that they can probably offer as far as, opportunities and guitars, maybe at different price points, for instance, or, even let's say Ernie Ball, they will do their Sterling version of the guitars and then the full-on custom shop version, American custom shop version. Fender, similar thing, there's opportunities there, maybe in different markets and different, and then clinics, like Ibanez is well known for doing clinics all over the world. And, there's opportunities there. It's a great big company. They're fast, I would say, probably faster moving, as far as, Sir is a smaller company. It's a more exclusive thing, and a dealer network is more exclusive. It's just a smaller operation. With that, you have the ability to call the guy on the phone and talk to him in person, and you need something done or whatever. It's a family affair, it's a smaller operation. And if you can work with that, and know that maybe sometimes things are going to take longer, because there's only so many people there and stuff, and it's a smaller operation, the rewards are really great, because at the end of the day, the instruments are just, exceptional, right? So there's going to be the right fit for different artists, for what they expect and what they want. And the Sir folks, for me, I mean, just because John is literally like, one of my very best friends, and when we work, that relationship, to not have that at this point, like, if I would be sad about that, that would make me really sad, like just on a personal level. And just because I'm tight with them, and I bet a lot of their artists, like Ian and probably Andy, for sure, and stuff like that, and Henderson, and I know they feel that way. Like, this is a guy that we've all known for a long time now, and if you get to know John, he becomes a really good friend. And not only that, there's nobody better, that knows guitars. So to not have that, and to maybe go to a less personal relationship at a bigger company for an endorsement would be really cold to me. Like, it wouldn't feel good on a personal level, because a big part of working with a company on things, to me, is that relationship of that tight, like, kind of like if you're at a label, like in your band, like, when your A&R guy that signed you, that really believed in your band, gets fired or whatever, and they hire somebody else and they stick them in there. It's a classic story, and they don't really understand your band, and that would be a really sad event too, to me. So anyway, that's what I find with Sir, is that things take a while, to get done, and there's things about it that sometimes drive me crazy, and it's like, but I also, by the same token, I've got a great perspective on the fact that they're just really busy, and they've got a lot to do, and they're not a massive company, and there's only so much they can do, and I've become very comfortable with that, because I feel like it's like the right fit for me. That fit might not work for every artist. If they're like, yeah, I want a $1,000 guitar at a different price point, I also want to have my custom shop version that's $49.95, and I want to, well, that's not going to work at that company, or I need this done by, I want to bring this out in 3 months, and I'm expecting this and this and this, and business wise, I want, no, it's not going to work with them. It's a exclusive, smaller, long process with them, where it's like going to be, it's going to be a different experience. But come on, the guitars are like beluga caviar, right? So anyway, that was really long-winded, sorry. BB Zonka says, what did you use the Rocket lead boots for when you had it on your board, and what replaced it? I never really put it on my board, although it did sound great, and sometimes I wonder why I didn't have it on my board more, because I sure loved the sound. I think you must be referring to the video I did where I played Because We've Ended as Lovers with it, which I love the tone I got on that video. I love that track so much. But they'd sent me a bunch of pedals to check out. I still have it, and I should get it out again and actually listen to it again. It's a great sounding pedal. Rocket, great pedals, man, across the board. Really, they make some great stuff. Speaking of drum doctors, are you going to do something with the Freese brothers? Because that was so cool, says Brian. I talked to Josh on the phone the other day for a while. It's always great. He's hilarious, and his brother's hilarious too, and I love those guys. Josh has something coming. I won't say what, but that's going to be really cool, I think. So I'd love to do more, but he's those guys are busy dudes. They're always all over the map and stuff. So we'll see if I can make that happen. But I had an idea that we should do more of, like, just go down and write 6 30-second pieces of music, and we'll just do them all in one day, because we just did that one thing that day. But I'd love to do more. Josh is one of the most amazing drummers I've ever played with. I think he's one of the best rock drummers in the world, for sure. And so I don't think there's any dispute with that, right? I see that Laurie Basilio has gone with Ibanez. Yeah, she's got a signature Ibanez guitar. So take it for what you will, what I said earlier, about there's some things work for some people and other things work for others, just depends. So Peter, are you friends with Andre Neary? And what are your thoughts on his style? You know, I don't know he's playing that well, although the things I've seen, I think he's amazing. I haven't really, I should look in closer because I haven't, it's one of those things I haven't had a ton of chance to check out, you know, his playing. Rocket Melody is a great sounding pedal, says William. Yeah, they make some great stuff. Some really great stuff. Really terrific. I should go. I guess I should split. It's 1:58. I was split in 2 minutes. This was a long one today. That's what she said. No, I should go because I got to work on my Quad Cortex video as well as some other things. And I've got this fun new camera. For those that just joined, or I've got an amazing new camera. I saw Canon. And I combined Canon with camera, and it came out camera. But anyway, great new camera here that I've got that has an XLR, well, 2 XLR inputs on it. And it's a 4K, you know, super high-end like situation. My videos are going to look great, better than what you see right now with the internal camera on my iMac. But coming up this week, you'll see a big improvement. Big improvement. Ever use a controller for your DAW, says Guitar 77? I haven't. Be something I'd like to try at some point, but I'm so used to using the mouse at this point. You know, kind of is what it is. William says, have a great week. I agree. Have a great week, William. See you next time, I hope. Yeah. What else? Have you ever had any relationships that have not worked for you in the way you just described, says Angus? Well, I've been with Sir so long that's been great and what it is, you know. As far as with companies go, I mean, yeah, nobody I want to name. But not too many, to be honest. Over the years, I've been really fortunate to actually have pretty good, you know, most of the folks that I've started working with, like Ernie Ball, I've been with now for eons, and they're just exceptional. You know, they're so nice, and it's like a family. They're like family too. And you know, Sterling is really good friends with John, and they both talk and they, you know, share barbecue tips with one another, and they're both exceptional with the barbecue. And he's a great guy too, you know, Sterling. If anybody's ever met him, he's like a really, really cool guy. And so, you know, those companies are the ones that I tend to, that kind of family operation. It's just a good feel. I mean, the fellow there, Derek, that's my artist relations guy at Ernie Ball. He's been the guy since the beginning that I've spoken with there, and he's always really helpful, and you know, just I love their strings. I mean, I tell them all the time, it's like, is there more I can do for you, because I feel like I don't do enough for your company. Like, I made a video for their pedals a while ago that were like the expression overdrive, expression delay and stuff. Terrific pedals, but I wish there was more I could do, you know, for them. You know, something, I don't know. Anyways, if you could only play one guitar for the rest of your life, what would it be? It'd be my signature guitar. Joe Peasy is asking. My signature, sir, because it does kind of, if that was the only guitar I could play, I would be fine. I could play the rest of my life on that and make music and, you know, get a ton of tones and be a happy guy. That's my honest answer. Thanks for everything. I learned so much and enjoy hanging out here, says Richard. Thanks, Richard. I appreciate you being here. And Eric says, can you recommend a few brands or models of cables you like, or people you know like? I really like the Providence cables. I think they're excellent. I've got some cables from Laboga that are very nice. Cables from, what's the, I really like, to be honest, the good old Planet Waves, or like, I guess, Dimarzio cables are really great. This cable right here is really nice. Runway Audio. These, I've got a couple of these in the studio that I think are excellent. I'm not really a boutique cable guy. I have some because folks send them to me to check out and try, and I like them and I use them. I'm okay using the, you know, lately I've been using these guys. This is Planet Waves, or, oh man, unplugged from the Quad Cortex. These ones with these ends on them, I think they're just Dimarzio or Planet Waves style. I really like these cables. Very good. Like I say, Providence. That's the other one from Japan. There's Z103 or whatever cable I think it is. It's like they call it for live performance. They've got another one that's for studio performance, and it's like, you know, obviously you can use them for live or studio, but the the studio ones, they sound a little darker to me. There's a little more capacitance. Maybe they make them that way on purpose. I don't know. But I like the other ones a little bit with less, generally low capacitance cables. I like. Not that they're both not low, but one's a little lower than the other one, I think. Yeah. Did you have the situation that you're too lazy to work on the presets and units like Helix Kemper, but also lazy to put a complete pedal board? I'm annoyed for doing, says Lemmer. Lazy to work on all the presets, but also lazy to put a complete pedal board. No, I do both. Sounds like you're lazier than me. No, I'm just kidding. I kid. Ernie Ball makes 9.5. Yes, Primo Slinky Gauge. That's Guitar 77 asking that. Ernie Ball makes a 9.5 to 44. Rock Boy says, you are so kind for doing these Sunday chats. Hey, man. Thank you, man. And you're mentioning that it's nice to have this community with everything going on. I agree. I love it. And I feel the same way that you guys come here every week. You know that. And with that, I think I'll close. But I really feel that this is, I look forward to coming here every Sunday morning. I get up at a little too late and make my coffee and drive over here. And I look forward every week. And so thank you guys for always coming back and hanging. And with that, it's 2.5 hours in. I better run. I'm going to get some lunch, keep working on my Quad Cortex video. So that'll be coming later in the week. As well as what else I got coming? Oh, videos for New X and Sackless. What else? Something from Eventide relatively soon. I've got a fuzz from Canada that I've got to get to that's in my hallway, as well as a reverb from Chase Bliss, the big one with the sliders. That's going to be fun. Looking forward to that. Yeah, lots to do. Let's get to work. See you guys next time. Thank you. Thanks, Ben, for being here and moderating.